Hello everybody, it's 7:05 on June the 18th at Council Chambers, 400 Center Road. We have a quorum, we're ready to go. The agenda is before everybody, so this is the call to order. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Thanks, second, good. Any changes to the agenda? Yes?
8A5 would be an on-table report with respect to a request from Langara College student filming class wanting to do a student film, and they have a request for council.
Thank you.
And as well, there is an additional item to be added under resolutions, although there may be some well, there's always a need for council to consider and discuss resolutions. Just because they're on this section doesn't mean that just because there's no report doesn't mean that there's not aspects to consider. Anyways, that would be 9C, and that's regarding a relaxation of noise bylaw for the general store and cafe regarding music on weekends for the most part. And then for correspondence, there is on-table correspondence that I apologize for it having to be on table. It's correspondence between the mayor and the owner of the store that I didn't take note of or pass along to Shauna, so it didn't make its way onto the agenda. But I'd like to bring it for council's attention. And yeah.
Okay, and so I think to give Councillor Barmayer a heads up on that one, how about the CAO and I chair that, which would be resident correspondence B3.
Okay.
Are we talking about the agenda?
Yeah. Yep.
We had talked about at last meeting adding the EV fast charger to unfinished business to determine a location. The staff was meant to determine a location. That was the first step.
I don't remember that.
We were just going to add it to this table.
Add it to the follow-up action?
Yeah, add it to this table as a follow-up.
Number 90,
Kind
you're
of
gonna,
tracking it a bit.
Okay.
So it's,
My recollection is, however, that it was something that council had passed a number of, it's like a 4-part resolution
Yeah.
referring it to the IC.
the first step was location.
Okay.
Staff to determine
Right.
location. Second step was a BC application for service. And then at some point later down the road, if we find a location and we find the services available, then we look at the IC involved with the operations and maintenance considerations to see sort of operating costs. And
Right. Perhaps we can add that then as item 95 and speak to it when we get there.
okay, so CAO will help you and Councillor Barmayer address it then. And so let me turn this baby off. Thank you. All right.
Now, a couple of things that are being created in new business. That's the right place. A question on the CM parking lot. I don't have an answer for it. I just wanted to bring up residents' concerns that have been raised with me. And then something
The CM lot?
CM lot.
Thank you.
And then
CN parking lot.
CM parking lot.
Yeah, so that's 12A.
And then community shuttle survey. Could we just got a few questions on that?
Sorry, on the what?
Community shuttle survey that.
Right, on the transit survey?
The transit survey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the third one was, the third was the annual report. We've dealt with that in the email, so don't worry about that. You want me to send more comments about email, so I'll just do that.
Okay.
So that's on or off?
That one's off, sorry. I had 3, but I just remembered that one was on.
And then through misunderstanding as between myself and Mr. Zordigan, he felt that he was in a position to come tonight as a delegation to speak to, I'm not sure what, because he did not fill out the delegation form in detail to advise the points that he wished to speak about. which is in part why he was not put on the delegation list for tonight. But he's obviously here, and he would like to speak when the time
I have to
comes.
respond to you
When the
because
time comes, sir.
you
We're not at
forgot
that
to say
stage.
all this. Okay, I'll wait for
We're
that.
not at that
You
stage.
are the judge.
Yeah.
Thank you, thanks.
Please continue.
So I would suggest that council either look at hearing him under public participation and determining whether or not they wish to relax the time limits on that, or to accept him as a public delegation, although I would suggest that you go with the former.
Do we know the subject matter?
Yes,
Pardon?
Mr. Mayor.
Do we know the subject matter?
Sorry.
I believe the subject matter is either or both of parking matters and filming matters, matters which he's spoken to previously. So I stand to be corrected because I don't know.
May I respond, please? May
Okay.
I? First
I
of
think
all,
you want to get your 2 minutes.
Quick, actually, the
Just to
question
tell us
is,
what it's
what is the
about.
topic?
Just what is the topic?
about the topic, is just the response. I would like all of you replace it with me to see that if it happened to you. I have sent the email to Shani. She said that you have to fill up the application.
No.
I did it.
Can't be.
For
The question
Let me
is,
come up to
the question is what are you going to talk
What is the
about?
topic?
The topic is all the missing issues that should be resolved, and it's not resolved yet. And I would like to address to all of you, because you are not aware, because you are not there, and some information maybe it comes to you that is not correct.
Okay.
Missing information with respect to, on the topic of what?
Topic of that the issue of the parking lot, that you are, there is between 8
KG
to 10,
lot,
but
okay.
no one said that what will happen in weekdays, that
Okay.
everybody is there, and after 10, that we don't have any.
All right, thank you.
Line officer.
Thank you. If you could sit down, Mr. Zordigan, for the minutes. So, council members, let's just recap. The CAO, as you said, through some miscommunication, an opportunity was missed for Mr. Zordigan. So the choices are that Mr. Zordigan is allowed the 2 minutes to talk about what he chooses to talk
Excuse me,
about. Nope. To talk about what he chooses to talk about, or we allow him latitude in an extremely unusual situation to go to 10. So I propose to go clockwise, and your view, Mr. Bain. Number 2 for the 10 minutes.
No.
No, sorry. Pardon, 2 minutes, sorry. 2 minutes, Councillor Abbott.
I would go for the 2 minutes. The reason I asked about the topic is I think there was an email explaining the timelines on the other subject matters, and I was just making sure that we weren't going to now regurgitate that tonight ahead of when it was decided what the timelines were for the filming and the parking thing. There was an email, I'm assuming to Mr. Zordigan, telling him when we deal with those matters. So I'm good at 2 minutes.
2 minutes it
Fresh
is.
news, as long as it's not one of those
All right.
other issues.
All right,
that we are dealing with.
Trust me, with the agenda we've got tonight, it'll be 2 minutes.
Okay.
Councillor,
2 minutes.
okay, carried. Thank you. You have 2 minutes when the time comes up.
I have a question, sorry, sir.
Yes,
All of the gentlemen and lady doesn't know about the background. I need just explain it to you. You deserve to know what's going on. I have sent the email to be appear as a delegation on 3rd of June. Mr. Peter said that change it to 18. I said, okay. And then he said that he sent another email that you have to fill up the application. I said, but I have done this before, application, and I have a confirmation from Shana, from the office, that you are approved to be there. No response. What does it mean? It means I'm agree.
thank you very much.
He's agreed, because I filled up the application before, and it had been approved, I have the email.
Thank you very much. You will have 2 minutes when your time comes up, which is, before we close on the agenda. Are there any other items or changes to the agenda? Motion to accept as amended. Thank you. Second. Thank you, Councillor B. And we are done. Okay, public participation. I'm not sure who's up, Mr. Doherty or Mr. Zordigan.
Mr. Doherty was...
I'm ready to speak, Mayor.
Good. And per if you understood what we spoke about before, we were suggesting before you begin, because we are tight for time tonight, you're going to talk about 2 minutes for what you're asking for relative to the noise, the music.
I'm happy to have the other.
Then, and the other one will come through correspondence, and you'll get a more official response, because they're both issues that are, you're going to be tight for 2 minutes. So when you hear the bell at the end, then try and finish within 30 seconds.
Well, certainly the other topic with respect to the utilities, that's a much more media and weightier subject, which I'd like to be heard on. Maybe we could apportion a greater deal of time at a meeting in the future.
Yeah, I think
But this is a quite simple one, the one with respect to
All
the
right.
noise bylaw.
Just a second. Councillor Bain, can you do a reset? Thank you.
Didn't realise it was starting. Pardon.
There you go. You're on the time. Go.
Goodness me, it's like Lions Bay's got talent. Mayor and Council, thanks very much for hearing me. My name is Craig Doherty. I'm a director of a company that is the owner of the General Store and Cafe. You may have noticed in recent times that we're trying to put a bit more life back into that little precinct. The patio now is licensed from about a year and a half ago for 38 persons under a food and beverage licence issued by the province. We're starting to put on a series of functions called the Summer Series, quite benign. We're not talking about anything akin to Woodstock, just a guitarist, local talent. It should be a showcase for local talent. That's a great outdoor venue. What I'll be seeking is an exception under Section 6 of the noise bylaw. And what I'd be seeking is a blanket exemption over the course of the summer up to a predetermined date, say August 31st, on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays, to have a guitarist, vocalist, perhaps up to a duo, sing between the hours of midday and 7 p.m. That's the exception.
7 p.m.?
7 p.m. I know.
Could you-
We're in bed by then.
Could you repeat that, Craig?
I'm looking for a blanket exception I think the term is, under 6 of the bylaw, because the people that are turning up, the likes of the Mark Coglins and the Dan that have played, they do bring a little amp, and they do have a microphone, but it's nothing outrageous, and we'd like to, infuse that little precinct with a bit more life. So I'll be seeking Council's indulgence to allow that exception, and what I'll be seeking is between the hours of 12 and 7, because perhaps on Sundays we do a lunchtime session, most people are gearing up for the new week, but between 12 and 7, that's what I'd see, up to say August 31st, Mayor and Council.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And so on this, I think what CEO De Jong was saying is that we've got this later as an opportunity for discussion for relaxation of the noise bylaw. So I will probably accelerate that once I get a chance, so you won't have to sit here for 2 hours to get your decision.
Okay.
Thank you very
You
much.
don't need to hear from me anymore?
Nope.
Okay. Right. And Mary, if I'm not going to be heard from again, or I don't have an ability to speak again, I'm guessing you don't need me here.
I think the ask is pretty clear. Nope.
Do you want to ask any questions about amplified versus non-amplified?
Are you going to be here for the next half hour?
I can be if you need me. Yeah.
Why don't we bounce him up sooner while he's here? Moving from here to there. Fine, have a seat. We'll be done in half an hour.
Okay.
Back to you. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Zordigan.
First of all, I have to tell you that I'm regret about the emotion that I had in the other council meeting. Sorry for that. But today, this thing that which is happening, if all of you don't know what's the background, maybe you make a mistake. The background is the office of the Lions Bay, Shauna, confirmed that she received my application and I'm going to be at the delegate. I said, okay. And then when Peter asked that, change it to 18, I said, okay. And then he said that you have to fill up the application. I remind him that I have the email. that I did it, and it means that you have it. He didn't respond to me. It's a little bit suspicious for me that why he didn't respond, because he wanted not to put me, my name as a delegation. In this regard, because I fill up the application, I have the confirmation, I have okay about that, I would like to talk as a delegated in 10 minutes. Please confirm.
You're asking for 10 minutes?
Yes, please.
Denied.
May I ask them why?
Council passed that you had 2 minutes.
No, because they didn't know that there was a back and forth email, and I can show all the email to you, that I have been approved for the delegation on 3rd, and then they said that, okay, come over here on 18. I said, okay. Could you please let me know why? Because
I just told you.
this is the logic.
Your request is denied.
I have a question from you. If you receive the email that you are confirmed, what does it mean? It means you are confirmed.
Sorry, I don't want to get into a big discussion beyond your 2 minutes here, but the email that I saw was that you were asked not to attend as a delegation at this meeting.
This is a democracy country. I want to know that why I have sent the email. They confirm me, and I'm not eligible to talk as a delegation.
Mr. Bain, could you look at your clock and we'll go 1 minute further on this? Did you submit a delegation request? Yes, no?
Just, I want to know that.
Yes, no?
Yes, please. What?
Did you submit a delegation request?
He did, and then Peter had asked him to fill it out with more information.
And then I
To
did.
come to the meeting, so
All right.
it was not
So
accepted.
I'm making a call on this one. No delegation. Your time is up.
If you want to say no, I respect you, and with all respect, I believe that this is not a democracy, that I have sent it, she received it, she confirmed
Well,
me. Why not?
Mr. Zordigan, as we're at it, we're into a he said, she said, and a bunch of...
No, I have the email.
I don't want to...
I can give it to you all.
Okay, no, we're done. We're running an enterprise here, and we were generous enough to give you 2 minutes, and your time is up. Please have a seat.
Okay.
Next up, thank you.
We'll see.
There are no public delegations. Can I, the next is review and approval of the minutes of the prior meetings, which is June the 4th.
Thank you so much for
Thank you very
listening to me. But this gentleman is follow the footstep of Carl Bear, which is wrong. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That's how I need to go.
All right, so just to recap, we're looking at the prior minutes. I had one minor spelling thing. I'll find it again, sorry. Makes sense. Anybody, any changes? Amendment, changes to minutes? Come on, gentlemen, you've seen the minutes. Any changes? Nope?
No.
All in favor, no changes? I've given my one spelling change for John. All right, can I have a motion to accept the minutes as submitted? Thank you, second, good, done, next. Which is business arising from the minutes, and I did not see any that we have not covered or staff have put into the village update or is in process. Anybody?
I have a couple.
Yes?
Item 6A, item 8.1A, Brunswick Beach encroachment application. If there's no short answer, Peter, we can maybe get it another time, but what is the criteria for an encroachment registered on title? So we have some where we ask for it to be registered on title, we have another one later tonight where it's not required on title. Is there a clear criteria? Is there a simple answer?
It's I think probably deserves a more thoughtful response that I don't have on the tip of my tongue,
Okay.
but more or less when it's more important that a third-party purchaser for value with notice needs to have notice of a restriction on their right to use the
So is it a
property.
discretionary thing at your discretion? Is that
Somewhat,
where it
yeah.
ends?
Yeah, but yeah, at this point in time, it's more or less determined by staff as to what's requiring registration versus non-registration, and trying not to impose too much of a requirement for registration on people when it's not really as important or necessary to do so. But where staff feels that it's necessary, then we do so. That's about the best answer I can provide at the moment.
Okay, thanks.
Are you fine with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Any other?
And the other one was on the personnel item, I guess it's page 9, item 5. Got a few questions on that. So I saw these notices go out. They only went out for 2 weeks, which seems an awfully short time. I was informed they were advertised in the Whistler Peak. Were they advertised in any other media, such as the North Shore News? And I think they should have at least been in the Village Update. I'm sure there might be locals. Well, I'm sure there might be locals. We would hope there might be some locals who would be interested, and it wasn't in the Village Update. I did find them on the website. It took a bit of a search, but once you know where to look, you know where to look. But if it had been in the headline or the banner or something that draws people's attention to it, I think it might have got a bit more publicity in the village. I'm not sure many people have noticed it. And then the final question was, how many applicants did we get? If you know the answer. And it closed yesterday, I think.
Generally we advertise where, generally we're looking for experienced staff who have the skill set necessary to step into a role. And there's really one primary source for that, and that is Civic Info, where all local government jobs are posted. Posting in additional places will always get you more resumes, but my experience has been, and I think the experience of others, the other management staff here, is that you get a lot of resumes from people who aren't qualified to fill the position, which just creates more work to go through all of those and get back to people. My intention in advertising in the corridor through the peak was because I know that that's seen by many in the corridor. I think having people that are located within a reasonable distance of the community is also an important factor. Those who are qualified and looking for work or interested in positions, stay tuned to those channels, particularly the Civic Info. As well, with respect to the emergency program coordinator position, I also put out feelers through contacts at North Shore Emergency Management and the SLRD, and those avenues are oftentimes, if you know people that are in certain positions, that can assist because they know people who are coming up or going through training and could be the kind of people that we would be looking for. So that's more or less in a nutshell the philosophy behind our advertising for these roles.
I would have thought, Peter, the North Shore, North Vancouver, is an easier commute than Whistler. And surely it's a much bigger net to catch out what people you could possibly catch out there?
Well, it's also distributed in Squamish, and we did get responses from Squamish. And we also got somebody who lives in Lions Bay. So
Okay.
we
So-
hit all the bases, as well as North Shore.
Yeah, I mean, I know you can ignore the ones you don't feel are qualified. I just thought, put it in the village update and in the North Shore.
I just wanted to mention about the civic info. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but literally is the one place you look if you want a municipal job. That's where I look. It's where everywhere looks. It's a phenomenal service. Municipal jobs are a bit unusual that way, as they generally tend to just be posted in this one place. There's hundreds and hundreds of job postings there. And not to diminish other places, but I just wanted to reassure you that like the civic info is, in all my years of working, even in the private sector, I've never found a place where a better go-to place for like a specific type of job. And then also Indeed picks that up as well. So any of those places, anybody looking at any of those job search, it gets picked up from Civic Info. Just to reassure you, like the Civic Info, I'm not sure if you're familiar with
I
it,
get
but
you what
it's, yeah.
experienced people, and that's our deal. I'm not going to belabor the point, but people do change careers. People with skill sets can transfer to other industries and do really well. Just thought, in the local news and in the North Shore, widen the net a little bit. And it certainly sends a message to people locally, right? So you found someone here that happened to know that before being advertised there, someone might say, hey, did you see that? Did you pick up on it? I know you do this, whatever, how it happens, right? Anyway, we hope we've got a suitable number of applicants and we have a successful choice.
Yeah, we got quite a few, so we'll be going through
Good.
those in the next few days.
To Councillor Abbott's point, I just having a look at 2 North Shore Newses this afternoon, and West Vancouver is, since they're getting beat up in the press, is where I'm looking, so I'm always looking at the stuff that they put in for community groups. I don't know that I've ever seen any posting for a particular job.
SVN has a policy for civic info, that's all.
Civic info, and this is normal in
Municipal.
larger governments, so this, we maybe,
In all local governments.
okay.
It's the standard
So
place to
so
go.
that's really the better answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you fine with that, Councillor Abbott? What about the village update? I mean, what is your, just 30 seconds on this? Is it, if there was somebody homegrown, they wouldn't know because they're never going to go to civic?
But they would though, that's my point. Anyone who's interested in a municipal job goes to, even if they're in another, that's where I looked when I came from private sector to municipal.
If they happen to be looking,
Yeah.
Pam, you're not
Yeah.
always looking. Some of us are happy. I live locally and I see a job, maybe a nice job come up and I want to do it, and it's advertised. It's just, you know what, I'm done with what I'm doing. I'd like to try and get a go at that. Maybe I'm qualified. Maybe it's someone that's working in North Vancouver. She's not looking at the moment. He's not looking at the moment. Sees it in the village update. Down the street from her. I'll take a pay cut to do that. That's the kind of thing you might get out of it, right? That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
At least in the village update, and I found it, as I said, it's on the website.
All right.
So just put it on the banner headline, link to it, give it some visibility.
All right, let's hold that one because, as you know, we're not hiring a lot of
It's too
people. But I think it's a fair point, and it also, from an education of our folks, it's another, I mean, people that surf the web. Anyhow, got that one. Thank you very much. Any other business arising, Councillor? Good, we're done on that one. Moving on to number 7, unfinished business, and the CAO is about, or is that the first 2?
The first one would be pending, second one would be work in progress. The third one, I'll ask.
I think I've flogged this one for now. We're going to let it go. I mean, we'll see what happens after the UBC and, after the Metro come back and see if there's anything further on this angle of it. But I think for now it's been done.
Is it a strike?
Yeah, well, just for everyone, if you didn't see the emails, everyone would speed, it had been done before. So like all great ideas, someone else thought of it before.
I will say you both fought the good fight here, but okay, it's a strike. Thank you. Number 90, Public
Strike.
Works Manager.
Done.
That?
Yeah, the trees were chipped up, everything's taken care of, and an email was sent to Mr. Road.
Good. And just for, this was the school district that green-lighted this.
The school district's arborist green-lighted it, the resident and the school district, I believe, paid for it.
Good. Thank you very much. We can only guess whether Councillor Cunliffe.
We don't have to guess because I was told by a reliable source that it happened today.
That
It happened today, just before the meeting.
she's a closer. There you go. It's a strike. It's a strike. Thank you for that inside information. All right, and number 93.
That's done.
Thank you. 94, I was distracted. As you probably saw, I half-typed the thing and then I got distracted for 6 hours. So I have not responded to Mr. Menke, although, just a bit of information, one of Councillor Barmier's and my neighbors was pulled over in a speed trap and managed to talk his way out of it, but in the gift of the gab, it turned out that the officer said he was part of an integrated task force on speeding, which I guess is the greater metro. I guess they consolidate some of their forces, and they go pick a target for a day or a week or something like that, and the Howe Sound corridor was one of these things. I tried to find our officer in charge, Inspector Triance, but I couldn't get her number, and I know she's got a lot of emails, so I'm going to follow up with a little bit of detailed information on that. I think in the bigger picture for Mr. Menke, he's not going to get what he wants, but at least we're working on it. So I will have that out tomorrow, and it'll be in correspondence for next. And I think CAO and Councillor Barmer, you are going to craft number 95.
Yeah, so we'll have to look at our next steps in respect of that. I think I apologize for misapprehending what was next, but I think we'll probably have to focus a letter at Hydro and simply ask what poles have enough power, so narrow our location search that way to start with, and then take from there maybe. But we will follow up on that.
Yeah, to make it easier, you could advance a few locations with them and say, these are 3 poles that we think could work from a parking perspective.
Is this split responsibility, or where are we at with this and the owner of the...
Split.
Split?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Peter.
We'll ask it a third time if you want. All right, thank you. We're done on that, so that'll appear in the next minutes, which Councillor Barmer would be fine with. And if I can ask Council's permission to move what is currently number 9 resolutions to number 8, which was staff reports, and have staff reports become number 9, we can accelerate the public speaker's request for discussion. Would that be fine? Yes, 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 good, thank you. So if we can go to on the resolutions on a Crown lease renewal. So I'll do the motion that Crown lease number 234162 be renewed and the staff submit the replacement application for community institution use of the province. Can I have a second before we go to discussion? Thank you. Discussion, that would be you, CAO.
Yeah, so this is that little piece of land that sits on the point on the other side of Magnesia Creek in front of the lands that the municipality bought a couple of years ago at the end of Brunswick Road. The lease was taken out in 1989 and has come up for renewal, and that application has been submitted but requires council resolution and along with our renewal check. And so that's why this is here. I did explore the possibility of letting this lapse on the premise that the land essentially constitutes accreted land from the creek, and therefore has become part of the esplanade, and so a lapse of the lease would result in it becoming part of our property in any event. The Front County BC officer that I dealt with on this didn't necessarily agree that that was a fait accompli, and I double checked with just a quick chat with our lawyers, and there's a process for doing that, and it's a fairly involved process, and so we'll leave that one aside for now and maybe embark on that process at some point.
Very difficult process.
Yeah, so in the meantime, we're just gonna renew is the recommendation here, so.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Bain?
The dotted lines, I presume, are just much like Rossman's lines to outline things. It looks like from the drawing that we're talking about a water lot, but that's not the case at all then.
So, yeah, what we're looking at here on is it
Page 102.
102 of the agenda is not the big square, it's the bloop on the bottom.
Right.
And the fine print would tell you it's 0.25 acres versus the other one is 2.95 acres. What we're renewing is Block B of Lot 6922. Block A had been demised and had a tenure on it. At one point in time, it's currently got nothing on it. And so I also intend to explore the option, the possibility of pursuing a tenure for the municipality over that water lot. And we'll be exploring that further with the Brent County BC officer that I've dealt with. Because I think that would be advantageous to the municipality.
I see people squirming in their seats ready to ask questions.
I had an observation that was been explained. I thought our surveyor, someone else that couldn't do math, was 0.1 hectares, not 2.95 acres, but
No.
that's now being explained.
Good observation. Any further discussion on this? All in favor of the motion? I'll call the motion. All in favor of the motion? Unanimous, thank you. Next up, relaxation, excuse me, on page 107, relaxation of noise bylaw for 140 Lions Bay Ave, that council relax noise bylaw and the traffic and parking bylaw to allow live music until 10:30 p.m. at 140 Lions Bay Ave. On Thursday, July 18th, and waive permit parking during this time for our Lions Bay House concert. Can I have a motion? Thank you. Second, going to discussion and CAO. Yes.
What I've taken out of this draft of the motion is the reference to angle parking on Lions Bay Avenue, excluding cul-de-sacs, no parking areas, and fire hydrants. I think that without markers to say exactly the area in which that would be permitted, it is too much of a blanket dispensation, and people, unless somebody's out there guiding them where to park. And I really don't think that for the, it's not a very long distance, that it's potentially possible. Doesn't add that many vehicles to the count of how many can park there. And their rear ends of their vehicles are sticking way out in the street when you come around the corner and come down Lions Bay Avenue. It's a high traffic area in terms of pedestrians coming from the beach or to the beach. I just don't think it's a great idea. We did look at, can we make it something, can we push it in and make it permanent angle parking, increase the number of parking stalls, but that just wasn't feasible. So I think, from staff's perspective, that we should probably just require that it be parallel parking along that stretch of road. I know it's been done historically, but I don't see the need for it in terms of the cost-benefit analysis. I think there's more risk with vehicles sticking out on the street and emergency vehicles potentially having to come down there, pedestrians, etc. And the benefit is pretty slight. So.
Thank you. I see on this we're waiving permit parking versus previously we've been mailing them a
Yeah, I think that
2 feet of stamps.
It's the bylaw officers, I think. When
The,
the bylaw officers are on duty.
yeah. So in terms of this evening, there's no. Yeah, it's a Thursday, so there's no bylaw enforcement officers working that evening in any event. So I think the simpler course of action is just waiving the requirement.
Sure, come up with that answer. Good. Colleagues, any other discussion?
Just
Councillor
Two
Abbott?
observations. One says obviously we'll try to keep music and we'll inform our neighbours before the event. I think the normal rules before you inform the neighbours before you apply for the variance. That's what other people have done. I think that's the accepted rule. They said they're going to inform the neighbours after they get the approval. That sounds a little bit horse and cart the wrong way around. And I'll say it again, I still believe regardless of whether the bylaw office on duty or not, we have a bylaw, we should stick to bylaw, we should be consistent, we shouldn't tell people you can break it if he's not watching. We should issue the parking passes and do it the same way every time, regardless of the time of the year. I just think it's mixed messages all the time. I've said that each time it's come up, and I guess I'll keep saying it maybe, but I just think it should be.
Well, I thought your record was pretty winning up till now. Can't say that I disagree with your thinking.
Yeah, because we've had other people,
Because
for my neighbour to go get a power passes, other people have done it.
It then becomes a template.
Yes, that's the rules.
I don't disagree with that. So your first part about making the neighbours aware,
I don't know if there's a rule to that effect, but I know on other applications they've told us they've already informed their neighbours, which you think would be the right way around. Not, I'm going to inform my neighbours after you give me the variance.
do you have a comment on that one, Mr. Keelan? I kind of thought, when people usually canvass their neighbours, I'm looking at somebody who did, but I didn't see any written, he would never get written confirmation. And people have been known to fib.
I'm not sure whether it's done in each case or if there's an established practice. I'm not aware. I confess I haven't considered that being a set criteria. Maybe, as I think you've said previously, we should have a set criteria and set out here's what you got to do, A, B, C, and then come to council for D.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, so we probably should.
Well, it takes all the fallout out of the question. Okay, well, data, this is quite a way off. So, to be devil's advocate, if we are trying to go towards a template, do we want to go using this one as the first one? We're going to, because I think to Councillor Abbott's point on the permit parking versus close your eyes because the bylaw is not there. I kind of am of the view, myself, I'm of the view we should have the same standard. The neighbor thing, I'd never really thought about it, but it makes a lot of sense. Yep.
For these ones, I'm potentially a little bit concerned about forcing owners to utilize guest parking permits when you've got some of the people attending are going to be from out of town. Obviously, that's why you need them. But yeah, I'm just worried about photocopying of gas parking permits, and I don't know. Not sure it's ready to go, but.
All right. I tell you what, for me, I don't mind holding my nose on one, and that we push this off to there's 2 more meetings before the break, to the fall, and we maybe define something on this? Or do we go on?
This is also opening up another discussion altogether about, do we need to be so uptight in the summer about what noise in people's backyards? People want to have a summer party. Is there some way to relax this for the summer altogether?
I think the folks are being respectful doing this. I think this is good neighborly, I think.
Okay.
All right.
One thought.
Yep.
Just with the discussion about the parking, I hadn't really thought about this before, but to Neville's point about the parking passes, I'm thinking with the number of people who are coming in from outside, if we just blanket waive it, it sort of sets the pattern that they think they can come and park here, whereas if they're handed a pass, they're sort of inscribing in their minds that this isn't free parking all the time.
Mhm.
So maybe there is some merit to it.
Mhm.
And they have to be, the date has to be written on for it to be valid, so it's not, if you photostat it at home, you have to take in some effort to white it out,
Yeah.
smudge the colours and do all that, but if you really
Yeah.
into that length, then you deserve a free parking if you do.
All right, if I'm sensing that this,
We
then
have
I,
event parking, it's a different pass altogether.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Right, that's not photocopiable. Just a thought.
so I think unless I feel a ginormous groundswell that I don't want to be with parking permits, would be the amendment. And I think we'll just leave the noise aspect as it is for the time being. That's fine with everybody? Okay, any further discussion? No. Call a motion with the amendment, with the change being with parking permits. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Which brings us to another relaxation of noise, which is the general store. So I think this is the on-table item that CAO Dijon gave us. I'm getting a lot of emails today. Is this the one that was on email, or is this yours?
This was what I drafted in, I think I sent this around. But I noted that Mr. Doherty referenced 7 o'clock. I've got noon till 8 o'clock here just to provide latitude because the noise bylaw goes to 8 o'clock in any event. Although the difference really is whether or not it's amplified, I guess, is something that you might want to talk about.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, let's...
So, sorry, there was one other thing I want to say, was, so the structure of the noise bylaw is, it says, basically you can't do anything, and then it sets out a bunch of exceptions, specifics that you can do. So basically it says no amplified music, period, at all, ever. And then it says unamplified music, you can play between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock, I forget. It's something like that, though. And that's the only time you can play music or sing at all. The noise bylaw has always been something that, you know,
All right,
we cringe about every year.
all right.
When this time of year comes, we just
Right.
never get around to
You
bringing forward proposed amendments to it.
Councillor Barmier's told me he's not going to speak tonight, but I know he's starting to squirm in his chair.
So I just wanted to sort of refresh everyone's mind as to what it actually says, more or less. And then I think that's all I'm
So
going to say.
the unamplified music is that time frame any day of the week, doesn't differentiate Sundays.
I believe so.
All right,
But
all right.
only after 3 o'clock.
I'm giving this section 2 minutes and we're going to it.
So you can't sing in the shower after 9 o'clock at night? 'cause your window
Well, you
will-
can, if somebody else can't hear you.
Don't use your waterproof
Point of
mic.
origin.
Yeah. All right, to me, I get this, but I'm sure that the previous one on 148 Lions Bay Avenue is using amplifiers at their place, and I find a hard time separating the two. Okay, so I'll put forward the motion, give a second, then we'll get right to it. Second, thank you. Discussion. Gentlemen, the things that come to mind, it's the CAO has brought it forward. We're trying to expedite this for the resident. It's innocuous enough blanket exemption. The things that come, as the CAO has pointed out, is that the amplifier important. The thing that do we do a trial period, or do we want a majority of the complex owners saying yes to this? I don't want to really get into the minutia, because if it doesn't work out, we're going to get a tirade of people coming to us, and we can deal with it then.
I think that's the approach I support.
I'm fine with it as is. Councillor Abbott, Councillor Bain. Call a motion, all in favor? Done. All right, next up, back to staff reports. John. Staff reports, and we start with the CIO.
So this report is what we call the Statement of Financial Information, otherwise known as the SOFI. And all municipalities are required to prepare this report by June 30th and send it into the ministry, as well as make it available for the public, for public inspection, as they say. I've listed the schedules. These are the statutory schedules that we're required to do. We also send in our audited financial statements with this package as well. Essentially, you'll probably see some of this in the press. The schedule of remuneration tends to get publicized, especially for larger municipalities. And the other one is the schedule of amounts paid to suppliers over $25,000. So, not sure if we just wanted to ask questions or...
I have one question.
Sure.
So on the schedule of remuneration section 6,
Yes.
you've got item down the bottom, add benefits. Assume those are burdens, works out to 16%. So those are payee burdens, I guess?
No, it's actually only taxable benefits. So these are reconciled to the T4. So the salaries are on a cash basis, so it's sort of box 14 of your T4,
Okay.
and just taxable benefits. So the majority of the benefits, like the pension plan and the employee benefits, they're not taxable benefits, so they're not included in here. So this essentially is the unburdened salary.
Okay.
So when you think of your T4, it's box 14 plus the tax, basically box
I
14.
wondered why it was so low. And then what goes into the other one on the reconciliation? The 536,000 payroll-related expenditures. What all goes into that one?
I'm sorry, you
Yeah,
mean
jump
in
The cash flow.
on the suppliers, you mean? Sorry?
No.
What page are you
No,
on?
page 18.
Page 18.
Yeah, the suppliers. Sorry, you jumped ahead to the suppliers, right? Okay, so this is what I'm talking, that's the other benefits. The big chunk of that is going to be the pension, CPP, EI, the benefits that we get, the health plan. So that's all of it, that's the burden on the additional. That's not included in the remuneration, they just want the base salary, essentially your T4. So the pension plan, for example, our contribution is 10% of gross wages for our share, CPP,
So is that all
EI.
that's in there? Just burdens? I mean, I'm more familiar with that, 30% is the government jobs that good? 46%? Was there something else in there?
I want to rephrase that.
Sorry, and it's also, the biggest one is income tax. It's anything that's taken off the pay. So the biggest chunk is going to be the income tax that we've drawn, because this is just things we pay to third parties. So we have the gross pay, this is the biggest one. You got me thinking about benefits.
Okay,
That
gotcha.
can't be right. Trust me, we're not paid that well.
Yeah.
It's the income tax. So basically, I'm happy. The income tax, so it's anything, all the
Okay.
deductions that we then remit.
I think we stumbled on the answer
Okay.
there. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, any further questions? No? So then, the request before us is that Council approve the 2018 Statement of Financial Information for submission to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and that the 2018 Statement of Financial Information be made available for public information. Got a motion, second? Any other discussion last time? Going, gone. Call a motion, all in favor? Done. Unanimous. Next up, who doesn't love an encroachment agreement?
So 110 Sunset, the owner would like to create a sports lot for his children and their neighborhood friends to rollerblade, play hockey on, etc. He's asking for an encroachment of 5 feet onto municipal property. In terms of significant structures, there is only a small portion of a retaining wall that's very low that would be in the area.
That was amazingly brief. Okay, the motion is before us on the agenda, which is that the municipality enter into an encroachment agreement with the owners of 110 Sunset Drive in substantially the same form as the draft agreement attached to the report, and that the CAO and mayor be authorized to execute the agreement. I'll put forward the motion. A second discussion. Councillor Abbott.
Just a point of correction, drainage is on the other side of the road. It's actually not. There's no drainage on either side of the road at that point.
There is drainage on the other side of the road that goes down Sunset, or Soundview Road,
Yes.
the gravel road.
So there's a catch basin just before this lot starts, culvert that goes across the road, comes out onto
Soundview Road, yeah.
But where this lot is, and from there on, there's no drainage on either side of Mountain Drive. All the way down the switchback and down to the next road.
Right, this isn't talking about potential or future drainage, this is talking about what's there, and the drainage that's there is on the other side. If we choose to put in drainage, we can still do that.
Okay.
We would still have 17 feet of right-of-way, of road shoulder to work on.
A little less than 17 feet. But okay, just the statement says drainage is on the other side of the road, it's misleading. There isn't a drainage ditch on the other side of the road. My other question now is, so he's got 15 feet, he's got 7 feet to the wearing course, right? And then his embankment goes down 2 feet, I guess that's where the 15 feet comes from. Then he's talking about putting a fence and a hedge.
Yeah, typically landscaping doesn't form encroachment agreements. What we're talking about is just the hard surface. There will be a hedge blocking the court from the street.
Are we comfortable with putting a hedge on village land? That's all I'm saying. Are we trying to keep this down? So we're allowing to build a hedge on village land. That's what we're doing. I just want to be clear on that. And then I assume we're going to tell him that the fence has to be on the high side of the bank, i.e. outside of the 17 feet. So you can't put the fence down here and then the hedge, right?
The fence is to be tight with the asphalt.
So the fence has to be on a level point, which is a logical place to put it. It's going to be up here.
Yeah.
It's identified in section 1 of the agreement. The 3 things that constitute the license are retaining walls, the hard surface sport court, and the fencing. Those are the proposed structures.
Okay.
This isn't going to turn into a massive parking lot, is it?
No, it's going to be
Oh, the
fenced. You
parking
won't
lot?
be able to access it via
Is it a fence?
vehicle. No.
So the fences you can't
Yeah.
get up there except from the top.
But if there's any spillover from parties at Anmore, the helicopter can land there, right?
Not that large.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call the motion. All in favor of the motion? Councillor Abbott, thank you. Unanimous. Public Works Manager on a roll here.
Drinking water quality, the report basically provides a year-end glimpse of our water quality for the previous year. Essentially, there's no contraventions of the drinking water quality regulations. The most significant point from my perspective would be that water consumption has increased from a low of 351,000 cubic meters in 2016 to a high of 533,000 last year. Part of the reason why we put the brochure in the paper, along with the fact that we're down to a smaller tank at Harvey. But consumption is on the rise.
Do you have any idea? Any idea what's causing that? I mean, it goes down dramatically, stays low, and then spikes back up in 2018.
The only thing I can think of is in 2015, the IC met with the community and talked about water restrictions and saving water. And my thought might be that that's fading.
it's time for another education policy.
I agree with you. I think it was a very hard sell, and people weren't taking showers for days and letting plants die and buying rain barrels, and it's a full court press.
We're now steadily creeping back up to the 2014 level.
Yeah.
So we need to get some more education at some point, pretty soon.
I asked how the,
Is that an offer, Councillor Rabbit?
Yeah, I guess it is.
Sounds like something like your, nothing like when the water's running in October article with a reminder in May.
Sure, it might be fairly easy if we have one from before. I don't remember the campaign from 2014.
That was-
I don't mind going and refreshing it, and that needs someone, but
But I mean, what would that campaign do that would just help us during low flow times?
There's a lot of wastage going on, and educating people on on water conservation. It's a standard thing that every municipality does, Metro, all the North Shore municipalities.
Yeah.
Summertime water consumption in typically every municipality doubles. And a lot of that is from a lack of understanding of, for example, what a lawn really does require in terms of water. Things like washing your car in the summertime heat, when our consumption or when our supply is low. Those types of things, they need to be reinforced.
I think when you're dealing with people that have large lots, quarter-acre lots, so it really, to look at Vancouver average isn't really a fair comparison, because you're talking about people that have a sliver of a property, 25 by maybe a 90.
Yeah, that's why the city of Vancouver's in there, because you're talking about the university, or sorry, not the university endowment lands, but you're talking about Kits and other larger areas.
The average lots kind of taken into consideration.
North Shore, etc.
my point was more on comparison to ourselves. We go from 2010 to 2014 using around 800,000. We start this campaign, we go down to 437, 451, 472, and we start climbing up again, 472, 533, this year we get 600. If that trend continues, we're going to be back to where we were. It's not about comparison to anyone else, it's comparison to we can go back to.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what campaign is effective, and what are we, what are we actually trying to tell people? It should be pretty local, whatever our focus is, right? Whatever it is. So it's the summer months, it's watering your gardens. Okay.
well, I think a good start is that we've got one tank out of commission and we're using a smaller tank, and so we can't use as much water.
Yeah.
Whereas in 2015, the issue was we were watching the graph go down with our supply and our demand going up, and if the two lines crossed, we were in big trouble. But I think everybody got that.
Yeah, but I think we want to correct behaviours to become established behaviours.
Yeah.
Because every litre takes more staff, more time, more money, and it costs us, right?
What I'm getting at, I doubt it has much to do with people's, daily consumption, showering, cooking, that kind of thing. I think it's probably largely tied to I'm speculating, I think it's largely tied to irrigating people's properties. Lots of gardeners that take pride in their lawn, they don't want their plants to die. So educating people on how to store water on site over the summer, have some kind of local irrigation system,
Rainwater harvesting.
water harvesting, tanks here and there to water your plants on a gravity-fed system, to kind of give people new tools, and then hopefully they just adopt that for good, right? As opposed to just letting their lawn die one summer and then they're like, I don't like how it looks, so I'm going to water it this year.
One of the most significant losses of water inside the home is the toilet.
So if you have old toilets.
Old toilets, doesn't matter, newer toilets can leak as well if the ring wasn't put in properly, the flapper isn't installed properly. Toilets are the biggest consumer of water. If you have a leak on a toilet, you're wasting constant water. We just had a resident on Mountain Drive who the sound on the water service was intense. It was constantly running.
So the implication of people with septic systems would see a reduction in their pump out rates, or how would it benefit them other than just saving water? there's probably, because we don't get to,
We don't
Treat our
charge for
water.
water, so.
right, we have to treat our water on our own properties,
Mhm.
right? So is that?
Yeah, so I mean-
Is that saturated septic field, or what does that
Absolutely,
translate into?
yeah, saturated septic
So,
field.
to me, that's, I mean, maybe that's what the IC did, but those are kind of the local implications, right, because it's hard to compare our water system to Vancouver and how our water is treated, the downstream
Agreed,
side, right?
yeah.
It's a very different model. Anyways, sit down and talk.
You're doing your best, I know. I think this is a great piece of work. Thank you to the works manager and all of the people that assisted you. And back to Councillor Abbott, though. The reality is that we are probably going to go through a dry summer. If you're going to write an article, or staff's going to follow up after you write your article,
I'm not sure that this, to be honest, and maybe I'm just a little cognizant of how much time and stuff I can get to as part of it, but I think maybe this summer, the fear-mongering campaign that Norm's saying is not what we want to do. Maybe this
Mhm.
summer we should be still doing that.
Well,
Because around the Harvey tank, it's different. But going forward, I think we need a long-term educational
And,
benefit,
you know,
behaviour change thing.
I-
And I think that's a bigger picture.
we are on the same page, because basically when I had your name here, I was thinking about the village update, but I think, you know, it's the wrong time. We're not ready. It comes as fear mongering, and I wrote down diarize and market when we have our information and we're aligned, and then we make it a continuous throughout the year kind of piece. And then as, you know, as Councillor Bain was saying, you can see the graphs and whether we're making progress and stuff like that. So I think what I'm going to do is, you can know that it's going to come somewhere around you and staff on this one, but I think we should be carrying this over to the fall when we'll probably, I mean, I'll be pushing for an early strategic session, and this would be one of the key pieces, I think. So if we're fine with that, thank you. As always, thank you for your offer. Yes.
In the meantime, however, we will be continuing our communications campaign with respect to conservation and with respect to reminding people that we are dealing with a construction situation where we have much less water in reserve. So we do want to keep hammering on that. We moved to level 1 conservation already, given the conditions and the constraints that we're operating under. So if we don't see any response from the public to our pleas to conserve, we're going to hit level 2 sooner than later. So, and then hopefully they'll start listening. But I think it is going to have to be a constant message, provided in such a way that it's not the same message over and over and over again, because people just tune it out if it sounds the same and they just don't want to hear it. So we have to get a little bit inventive in terms of different angles that will appeal to them, like what you said, saturation of septic fields. Hey, it's in my best interest to conserve. So I think that's great, that's helpful, thank you.
Okay.
And we should keep looking for those opportunities.
Good.
Yep. Little, just quick questions, just from an education. It's a great report, by the way, really detailed, more than I need to see, but it's really good. 8 water tanks, 5 of which contain potable water. 5 tanks contain, sorry, on the bottom of page 42, bullet number 3.
Page 30,
Page 42,
42.
and page 6 of the report, if you like.
Yeah.
There's 8 water tanks, 5 of which contain potable water. Which 5 tanks do we have potable water in?
Phase 4, phase 5, Magnesia, Harvey, and Highway.
Okay, so they're all still not there.
Yeah.
Page is number 1,
Page 42.
43.
No, 42 of the
Oh.
package, I did the
So
same
I
thing you
thought,
did.
I thought those other ones were just kind of bypass. So all still
Page
used.
6 of the report.
Thank you.
So on page 46, bullets at the end, and these little arrows, the top bullet, it finishes with the statement where it's talking about operating procedures do not document critical water tank levels, employing residual requirements in order to achieve 60 ton. And then it says this deficiency will be rectified in 2019. What exactly are we doing in 2019 to change the redundant?
So this deficiency requires that we model the water tank to determine at what level we don't achieve chlorine contact time. So it's a modeling exercise through an outside engineer that will look at the CT calculation and at what point can the tank drop down to. And then if we have to drop down for fire reasons or for other significant draws, if there's a water main when we're at a fill cycle, how much chlorine parts per million can we add, free dump into the tank to allow us more room? So it's basically developing an operating procedure.
Okay, so it doesn't involve any new instrumentation or
No.
level transmitters or any hardware?
No.
So it wouldn't be an algorithm, it's something you operators would actively do as opposed to that?
No, it's a model that they run on the system. And,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
So
so the algorithm,
so what you were getting at was, would we need to add instrumentation?
Yeah, I was wondering if there's any infestation or any
No.
cost to storing anything. And circle around. Oh, we had that discussion. It was about the going back up. All right, I'm good.
All right, so the motion is that the 2018 annual drinking water quality report be received and that the 2018 annual drinking water quality report be made available on the municipal website. I have a motion, second, any further discussion? I pointed out something in blue to Shauna on page 53, 54.
Forgot
That's just a glitch, you
Take
guys
care
have
of
got it.
Carries on to 54 as well.
So that's for you guys to clean up. Any other discussion? Call a motion, all in favor? Thank you, unanimous. CAO, much as we love encroachments, we love insurance coverage more.
So this is just an information report advising of how we deal with our insurance for the community hall and our facilities, and how that changed in 2018 on the advice of our insurer, which is the Municipal Insurance Association of BC, which is owned by its members and operates for the benefit of its members, which is all the local governments in BC. And they pointed out a couple of issues with the way we were dealing with our insurance for our facilities and some of the risks. And they, in order to deal with those issues, because obviously it wasn't just our community and many communities operating the same way, so they developed an insurance portal for local governments to deal with and source out and handle their insurance requirements for their facilities. And it's quick and easy to use, cost-effective methodology that we implemented through them, and looks after our users quite well. And there's still an option for people who have their own policies in place to simply add the Village of Lions Bay as an additional insured. And I point out that where that's an issue, generally it's not. It's usually quite simple to do. But if there is an issue, then the option does exist for the user to purchase the insurance on the portal in a couple of minutes for less than $10 generally. So it's an evolution in the way that we do business, and looking after best interests of the municipality and the residents and taxpayers. So I thought it was just timely in terms of putting it out there and trying to provide the information as to why we made the change.
Yep.
So before we go any further, so a family member of mine putting an inquiry about this. I'm comfortable we talking about this as a general principle that I have no conflict of interest, but if we are talking specifically, and if that's what we think we want to get into, then I will recuse myself.
I think we're 20,000 feet here.
Okay. Okay, carry on. I have a few questions, but we can get to it. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't talking anything specific, that there was a
Well,
$5 pecuniary matter that I should recuse myself from, because I'm very conscious of
no.
that, so I would do so.
I think that what you're referencing is correspondence which is open, been responded to. I see this as like I said, 20,000 feet. I don't quite relate the two.
And maybe on the correspondence as well.
Well, it is in the correspondence
It is as
section.
well, yeah.
Unless you're thinking otherwise.
I don't know what questions you want to ask, so I don't know whether or not.
There's more statement. I'm
you
going to
can-
make questions that are general and not specific to
Yeah.
any one
Right.
request,
Yeah,
and I'm comfortable discussing that.
yeah.
But if people think I'm specific to that particular thing, then I'll recuse myself from that
No,
discussion.
I think we're
I
past
think
that.
that you're putting yourself in the position of everyone else in the community who has you have a similar interest, an interest in common
Interesting
with
comment, that's what I said.
others, so it should be fine.
Okay, I see, I'm talking as an interesting comment, and that's the way I saw it as well. Okay. And now I'm talking, do I go next, or?
Well, Peter's going.
I'm done.
Yeah, Peter's done. So, I mean, the recommendation is that it's in a motion, that the information is received. So, before we can get to it, I'll put forward the motion. Can I have a second? Then we'll go to discussion. Second, thank you. And we're in the discussion phase. Councillor Abbott?
So there was an earlier suggestion that this topic should be dealt with in the fall, in the budget discussions. I think that's a good place for it. I know there's talk here about risk, but risk is, impact and opportunity, and it's a financial impact, so I still believe it's a financial decision. I think it's a good place to have it. So I think I'd be comfortable that's where we have that discussion. I do think there's a few things we need to know before we have the discussion. The list of the groups that are currently listed on the municipal policy, who's there and how that differentiates them from other community groups. I think I'd be interested in knowing that to help me make my opinion. On the second paragraph, on the second page, Peter, secondly, we have been advised by MIABC, and it goes on to say, collecting premiums from users. We don't do that, do we? We don't collect premiums. So, Peter, on the next page, top second paragraph starts with secondly.
I don't know that we ever
We
collected money
did.
from the.
We had the blanket policy, and we
Yeah.
had set people on the policy, but
Right.
when other people came in and they wanted to be added to it,
Right.
we notified the insurance company, and there would often be an additional fee, in which case we would have to recover
We didn't
that.
collect premiums from users, is what I'm saying. I don't think we've ever done that.
No, that's what I'm saying, we did. If there was an additional charge, once we notified the insurance company of our blanket policy, because only set
Oh, then you
users
went back to
were...
the community and got them to give you the difference?
And we let them know that there was in our fee bylaw, there could be additional plus insurance costs, if there were insurance costs. And that's how a lot of other municipalities were doing it, and that was the advice, that you stop doing that. They just want an independent relationship. They want anybody using the facility to get the insurance directly themselves. That's to alleviate the risk.
Okay, my question is,
Yes, we did collect additional premiums
From-
from some people. If we
from
were,
some people,
yeah, we would let the insurance company know, say, someone, it was usually for third-party events, and they said they want to be covered under this policy, and they say this would be the additional increase to the premium. And there was a process at each time someone added. We had to fill out paperwork, send it to the insurance company, and basically say, add this to the policy. And then the $2,400 a year only covered a certain amount, and there could possibly be an extra amount.
okay,
Question. As sounds like a little bit of fudging the rules, but I was just wondering if there would be a rate for insurance for the use by anybody in it, so you don't differentiate on that. Would it be that much more? And then I was just thinking for the people who are normally on our list, give them a discount that way you're not charging anyone a premium.
Well, I think what we did before, when it was the blanket, for example, the rate was $40 for the use of the hall. And the direction from the insurance company was they want those individuals to get the insurance themselves. They want us to be removed from the equation because of these risks. And we were finding the insurance cost anywhere from $10 to $15. So we lowered the rent to $25 because we wanted the overall cost to still be about $40. So, for example, the volleyball, they were on that user group before, and then that's sort of what highlighted the risk. We didn't want to be insured that way anymore. We were advised not to be, that the volleyball needed to get their own insurance directly. So they do it through the portal, and they pay it directly, and then we lowered the cost of the rent to offset that.
So the volleyball being an organization?
Yes, it's a community group that just plays
So they
volleyball.
have to form a group first? So how does that become official? How does a...
We just categorize them as a community group. It's just people get together in the neighborhood who want to rent the hall out to play volleyball once a
So
week.
everybody that plays volleyball have to be listed on the policy?
Generally, yes.
Every
They
single
give
person?
No, isn't it? So that one person, whoever's
One person
the
gets the
lead for
insurance,
group
but-
gets the insurance,
yeah.
but
But isn't there...
covers that group. They don't have to incorporate or be a society or anything.
Oh, no, sorry. But I
Okay.
think we just get one. There's paperwork they have to fill out. There's,
So it's one
Yeah,
person.
one person just
has
does it online, right?
yeah, and then there's waivers. Each person who attends has to sign the waiver.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But no, none of these people incorporate. They're just groups. There's the badminton, there's the volleyball, they're just community groups. And part of the issue we have, as opposed to a larger municipality, they're in the building alone. Like at West Vancouver, we've identified over 50 municipalities now who use this form of insurance, but it's usually for events for the larger municipalities that are off-site. If you're on-site and there's employees in the building, then that's different. But with us, there's no one there. These people are in the building by themselves, and that's part of the issue we have with smaller municipalities. We don't have the staff to supervise these events. The insurance requirements would be different then. So we're just trying to find a cost-effective way of doing it, but also minimizing the risk that was identified to all municipalities. It wasn't just us. That it went out across the board that they were discouraging you from doing insurance this way. And it was also to protect, as the report said, people who are actually renting it as well, that they were more at risk through the other way we were doing it.
Could we offer people help with filling out this insurance application?
Well, we have. They call us if they have any issues. It's pretty quick. You just go online, fill out a bit of information, and then they just call reception if they have any issues with it. And but they usually don't. They just pay by credit card, and it can be anywhere from $7 to about
Yes.
$12 event.
Yeah, 7 to 13, I think, was what Haley said.
I'm sorry.
7 to 13, I
Yeah,
think was
yeah.
what it
Depending on the event.
general.
I mean, the feedback we've got has been pretty positive. We haven't from our regular users, because we lowered the fee. I mean, I think we would have got more pushback if we kept the fees the same and asked them to start paying for the insurance.
Okay, I had a couple of comments from people that were just positive about it, and there wasn't just the one
Yeah.
person closest to me. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I know there was frustration early on that the portal wasn't quite working, and people
Yeah.
were coming in and we were showing them how to use it, but it seems to be going smoothly now.
Okay, I'd heard exactly that portal didn't work, and the link didn't seem to go in the right place. I'd heard that from people when it was installed and all this, but if that's all smoothed out,
I think
then
it was
maybe
just kind of
suggest
learning
they
curve,
try
yeah.
again. Okay, and that link would go to MIABC website?
No, it's not the MIA, it's a separate portal. It's a separate insurance company that they just go to.
Okay.
And then, like I say, they have the option. We have quite a few groups that just who already have insurance, and they just add us as an additional named insured.
Yeah, so that one I can speak to. I know someone trying to do that, it's a week later, still haven't got it added. But anyway, so are we still going to discuss this later? I don't know. Prior to this discussion, I felt there was an easier, friendlier way of doing it. You know, the residents have already paid through their taxes for the stuff, and the risk I didn't believe was very very significant, and it should just be one rule. Which groups applied, which groups didn't comply, which groups needed skin insurance, which didn't. And we thought all community groups should just be allowed, all communities within their group or not should be allowed to use the law. It's kind of the way I felt it should be. But what's the decision? Are we going to revisit it now, or are we going to try to
I think
discuss it
that
here?
from in terms of it being a budget discussion or not, I don't know that it really comes down to that. It's really a case of being advised as to recommended methodology from a legal and insurance perspective, that insurance should be taken out by the users of our facilities, and we've tried to compensate by making sure that they're not paying any more than they used to pay, and that we take the step back. And the exceptions to that are where we have the blanket coverage for the seniors group and the events committee, because of the number of events.
So there's only two exceptions?
Yeah, they're the only two.
Okay,
And it
well,
was really
that
because
makes
of
it
their
possible.
off-site. It was to cover, we needed different coverage to cover them when they were off-site. And the seniors group, it's a bit different because it's a community group, but we also got a grant that said we would have a seniors group. So we have a sort of a different relationship with them, and this was a coverage that they could have, and again, more economical for them going in individually each time. And then the events committee, again, because we had to make sure there was some sort of insurance coverage for almost all their events are actually off-site. They're at the beach, there's the polar bear swim, all those things, and that was the most effective way. And it's paid for through their grant, so when they apply for their municipal grant, part of that is for the insurance premium.
Just $250.
It's $250 for the entire year for all of their events, and they're the only two that, and even they, to say we pay it, it's when they ask for the money for their community grant, part of the request is to cover that insurance.
But also, it's the way that's structured is where you have a community group that's providing a service on behalf of the municipality. So, as Pam stated, you had a sort of the senior set up in a different way where they're providing senior services on behalf of the municipality essentially. And then the events committee is also providing services on behalf of the municipality. So we were in a way obligated to make sure that those people were covered by taking out the extra insurance. But for everybody else, the preference is that they simply use the portal, recognizing that some people already have insurance. We provide the other option, and they just have to add us as an additional insurance. Cost-wise, it should be a net zero. We're going to review the fees. We're also going to review our definitions of what constitutes a community group versus an outside group versus the various different things that the way the wordings in the fee bylaw right now I think are less than ideal. So it will be the subject of a review, and we will come back in the fall with that and any other fee bylaw amendments that are proposed.
Ask another question, just the logistics of actually getting this insurance. So you go to this website, it's a portal, you enter information, but then you print a form, or what happens next?
Well, actually, it's quite efficient. You go in, just minimal information, the date of your event, number of attendees, it comes out with a price, and then it produces a certificate of insurance, so you have proof of insurance, but
Okay.
it also emails us the certificate of insurance.
So
and that's a great feature, so they don't-
online? It's like an electronic signature?
It's not a signature, it's basically you pay for the insurance, so as soon as you paid for it, you
Proof
have
of
the
purchase.
insurance, proof of purchase. Then you're issued there's a certificate of insurance you can print out.
Okay.
But what's nice is that same certificate is emailed to us because we have to have proof the insurance is there. So rather than having someone having to email it to us, bring it in, it's almost instantaneous that as
Okay.
soon as it's paid for, reception gets an email saying that, yes, we have
Okay,
the
so
insurance.
my next question is, let's say that takes 5 minutes. Would staff be willing to help someone through that website if they didn't have a computer at home, or if they struggle to fill out that form, or is that getting?
Well, we have been doing that.
You have been
If-
doing
Yeah,
that,
if
okay.
people, there's a number they can call, but if they also have issues. Because we had, the portal changed halfway through. We had one insurance, and then for some reason, they stopped offering it, and then MIA offered another portal that was a little bit different. We got quite a few phone calls. So we do spend a fair amount of time, helping people initially. We have never had anyone have an issue with not having a computer, but I believe when it first started, we were actually doing it for people, and then they were
Okay.
reimbursing us. I mean, it wasn't ideal, but again, it was just during that initial
So it's
transition.
5 minutes, a credit card, and $10.
It's developed for globally for municipalities, not just Lower Mainland, but all across BC.
No, I'm just trying to understand the process, what people
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
faced with, because sometimes those things can feel daunting, like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I have to take out insurance, I'm gonna run away.
Yeah, no, so
Whereas if
far I
maybe
don't
we
think,
could spell it out for people, just how quick and easy
Yeah.
this process
yeah, we
is.
have instructions and they
I
call
think you said
us.
it was clunky, it wasn't working at one stage. I think that might be the genesis of it.
Yeah, it was when it changed, that was out of our control, and, yeah. So it was a learning for us too, we had to learn how to use it as well, but we, people just call the front desk and then we just help them through it, and when it works well, it works really well. Like this idea of us being emailed the certificate of insurance is brilliant, because it saves
Absolutely.
someone having to come into the office, prove they have the insurance. We immediately, because we have to have proof that they're insured before they can have it.
I think it's a great idea.
And it just reduces our liability, and that's to me the biggest advantage, is that it protects the municipality. But unfortunately, insurance is a reality.
Okay, I will put forward the motion to receive the reports. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. Any further discussion? Call motion, all in favor that it be received, done, thank you. Which brings us to, thank you, almost jumped the gun there. Which is the on table amendment, not the on table, the amendment to the, to include the report of the Langara film students. Sorry, the waiving of the fees and CAO, let's go with you on this one.
Yeah, so these students had contacted us a little while ago and then kind of fell off the map, and then realized that they needed to get this organized, and so it came last minute, and looking to they can push their filming day into July, but they'd like to do a filming day in the beach park, Plansbury Beach Park, a section of it, from between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. And for a student film, and the nature of it was described in the report regarding terminal diseases changing our lives and our interactions with other people. So as a student project, they can't really afford much, and it's very low budget. They're looking to have the fees waived of about $1,200 as broken down at the bottom of the page, and as well as waiving the refundable deposit of $5,000. They can do a weekday. I sort of highlighted in bold the things that required clarification versus their application form. Some of the things weren't quite right. I think it was an older application. So they can do a weekday in July, and I think the best thing, instead of using the CN lot, would be to simply provide them with event or film permit parking. We have permit parking for filming, and provide them with that so they can just park on Lions Bay Avenue that day, closer to the entrance to the beach park. That would make more sense, especially with respect to the truck. They'll have a generator attached to it. So with filming, under the filming policy, I believe the time period for filming is a different time period than for noise bylaw. It goes to 10 p.m. In the filming thing. So that's why there's no request for dispensation from the noise bylaw to 10 p.m. that was something that I wasn't aware of previously, but
So you could just see your shooting film in your backyard.
That's what the same thing.
It's amazing.
Get your cell phone out, it's a movie.
Just film the house concerts.
Costed $1,200 though.
Oh, right.
yeah. Well, not necessarily, it wouldn't be a $500
come on, yeah.
park fee, so. Yeah, I mean, in any event, that's more or less what it is, and so up to council if you want to do something with this.
All right, let's do this a different way. Let's do discussion first. If I can start, of course, my question is why us? Because it's a lovely place.
There you go.
Good, lovely place, and we give up $1,200 and our half of the beach park for a day and a bunch of parking spots and some dough. I suppose for me, if I could be snookered into this, a very generous opportunity, if staff was going to make a notification in the village update well in advance of the shooting, and I would prefer that it was a Monday and not a long weekend, to least inconvenience the villagers. I could go a Tuesday as well.
Well, to that point, I'm kind of wondering what impact it would have on the residents who would want to use the beach on whatever day they choose.
Not sure that they're, from the scanty information, and the CAO may not have more, it just says they're filming in Lions Bay, but where
The
exactly?
bottom of that blue box talks about their shooting. Yeah, that. Very bottom.
Small section of the beach.
Filming activity? That doesn't look very intrusive to me.
And they probably want some activity. They probably want to not move land and other people on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Have to get waivers though.
For every single person that ends up in the stream.
Okay, that's my part of the discussion. Why don't we go clockwise? Councillor Bain?
Well, it was just, if they were expecting to have us close the beach for their benefit, I have a different opinion, but if they want to have people milling around, and I don't know.
It's exciting.
Well, if there's too much chatter from the peanut gallery, is it going to interfere with their filming and recording? I don't know. There's not a whole lot of information here.
It would be an educational process for them, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe they'll hire.
Yeah.
And they do know you're not closing
Maybe,
beach. We were very clear about
maybe
that.
the-
Oh, yeah, no.
maybe the cafe will do the catering. Who
Close
knows?
the beach for no one.
I guess I can forget my boat fee if I'm in the background.
Here, boat fee in the background, yeah. Or, okay.
Go in your boat.
Or you'll put signage on it that
Yeah, eat it, schmoes.
is controversial. Okay. So generally you are kind of in favor with the amendments I made. Yes, Councillor Abbott, your turn up.
Anyone know what a circus is? In length, well, I had a spell length might be a good start, maybe not very good, but what is it? What is this? It says length of circus, 10 feet.
Yeah, basically it's film terminology.
Well,
for
no,
that.
I assumed that, but what is it?
It's basically a tent for them to gather.
Okay. Tent.
Mhm.
Not something to be concerned about. Yeah. Other than the fact they can't spell, but not good for students. I'm fine.
That's why they're in film.
That's why they're in school.
That's why it's school.
So what were your amendments again?
So
So
far,
it's the
so
Monday,
far
Tuesday.
it's notification in the village
Oh,
update, and Monday or Tuesday, not a long weekend. Before we go to Councillor Barmayer, I'm cusping on whether they should make some form of a small donation to one of our community groups,
Or a mention.
or something.
In the film, yeah.
Yeah.
Credit in the film.
Credit or mention.
Do
Okay?
you want that? Come to Lions Bay?
Yeah, so they can do that. cancer.
My only comment would be on 20 gallons of fuel and running a gas generator. Is that something they're comfortable doing? Is that going to do proper spill control and
Yeah.
if they can set it up safely? Can they give us a little bit of some confidence around the fact that that'll be safe, or do we need to worry about that? If it's a amateur.
Good questions, I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the length of the work trucks is 15 feet, it's not big, so pretty small rig, really. I mean, your point's taken.
Well, I think Norm's got a good point. If it's an amateur film crew, I mean, how much safety do they practice? Maybe someone from the workshop ought to go back and make sure they make a bit of a hazard assessment, they've got spill containment, they've done all the right things, because we don't want somebody to go wrong and hurt someone.
Okay.
Actually, insurance is a normal requirement of the normal film permit application process.
Well, I'm sure they've got insurance, but I just want them to be safe, because obviously there's someone else is paying them.
I don't know if they've got insurance.
No, what we're saying is, we're just wondering, like,
Oh, you wondered
I'm just-
that?
we
I'm
need
just
proof of
wondering.
insurance.
I took that for a given.
Yeah.
So did I with the
So
Glengarra
for-
sending
We
them
have
out.
to
So
make
for
sure.
clarity,
They
our
provide it.
request is to approve this film and to waive the fees. The rest of the stuff is operational, so
Hmm.
While you're writing, Peter, maybe a spill containment plan or a safety plan?
Yeah, we should have some safety.
It's good practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, most film companies do have it, so.
It's 15 feet.
All right, any more discussion on this?
Small Toyota pickup.
All right. Okay, so I think you've got the one, two,
It should be one of
three.
It's
those,
got no front end.
could it be one of those
How many,
Isuzu short
how many
ones?
amendments do you have, Peter?
I've got Monday or Tuesday, not a stat, notice in the village update, not exclusive use, insurance and spill containment safety plan.
Okay, and then so I would be, those points along with the recommendation I would make is approve request for filming with waiving of all fees for flying in the wind. I'll put forward the motion. I have a second. Discussion. Please none. Call a motion, all in favor? Done, as amended. Thank you. No cameo by the mayor. Where was that in the terms? There you go. It says here the mayor reports I've got, sorry, it's not gonna be none, I've got a quick bunch here. I can update you on the houseboat. Another boat unit down the drain from one of the owners. The houseboat was previously at Britannia, is now here. Reason that it was intended to be at Britannia, but they're looking to lease it out as a crew cabin for somebody in Gibson's, and it's also listed for sale. So it's easier to have it here than there. I expect that if the lease is a yes, they're going to deal with that in the next week and it'll be gone over to Gambier. That's the latest there. The CAO knows that TransLink wants to come to our Canada Day event to promote their TransLink 50, their future services. I'm going to meet with them when I'm at TransLink on Thursday, and we'll see what that looks like, but I'm going to presume there's going to be a tent and some information, and I'm just going to watch the festivities. So that's news there. There's the residents never cease to amaze me. I was going to ask Councillor Cunliffe I have asked Councillor Cunliffe to deal with this newcomers event, which is going to be held in September, and those residents, they just find a way to gather, and so they've asked that the council members attend and meet and greet. So that will be, everybody's seen the email on this, but I'm going to have Jamie as a point person on that, and that's all I have. Questions? Nope. Council. Next one up is Councillor Bain on the evacuation plan, and if I could get Councillor Bain to hold for a second. I'm going to ask Councillor Bain and CAO de Jong to speak after I do on this. seen me at my grouchy part earlier in the meeting, so I think I do my second grouchy part now. I think that as I look at where we are with our staff resources and our resident resources, I like in spirit the recommendation for what is being proposed with an interim evacuation plan. But the three pieces of this recommendation I struggle with for reasons of the following: that it's a very short time and a long weekend to our next meeting. So it's a compressed period for staff to do what they have to do and also prepare for the next meeting. I'm also aware that the CAO's time between now and then is also going to be spent doing interviews for the multiple people that have applied for the executive assistant job and the emergency planning coordinator position. So I think to ask him and Councillor Bain to do more work in advance of potentially us making an offer for the emergency coordinator position, and do this work and involve our community members. It seems a bit that we're a little out of sync by a couple of weeks here, and my proposal would be to table this until July the 16th, when the pieces should have fallen together and Councillor Bain and CAO Dijon could have met again and hammered out some of this stuff. That would be my recommendation for tabling. But before I take it to floor, I'd give both of them a chance to speak.
Okay. It's not a bad idea what you're proposing. My concern is that we're sort of late in the season and we're playing catch up already. I would prefer that we had been able, I wish this idea had come a lot sooner and we could have gotten started before the Deputy Emergency Program Coordinator would even be hired. But unfortunately, I didn't think about it.
Self-infliction is hard, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So I wonder if there's another way we could do it. I don't want to use up the CAO's time unnecessarily when we're kind of heavily burdened. And I wonder if it's possible, if I could sort of work on my own for a little bit and start off with a group of people who are interested in this and start seeing what the possibilities are so we'd have a more informed opinion, and then come back to the July meeting with some feedback that could be used in the decision making with council and CAO as to what would be the next step. Although quite frankly, I'm wondering how much we can get accomplished in the next couple of weeks.
Well, I guess I'm curious to know, like, we've got the two either or type recommendations here. And my suggestion was that the second of the two was the more appropriate way to go. I think that asking a committee to try and draft an interim evacuation plan would be not a wise way to go about doing this. I think that their knowledge of the community and the neighborhoods and so forth are more suited to the second version, which is compiling the information that will inform the creation of optional evacuation routes. I think that's the resource that they can provide. I think that there's a few wrinkles to this that I would want to sit down with you, Councillor Bain, and talk about, just to sort out and take into consideration, so that we're clear in the direction that we want to go on it. it might be useful to have the new person as well. But I think that, I think it's important for us to talk about what, you know, what the scope of work should entail, and where we need to be careful about going down rabbit holes or things that I can foresee being potential issues. So I'd rather have that conversation with you and the opportunity to work with you on talking about those things and coming up with the terms of reference that's clear, so that when you know, when we actually sit down with people, they know that we're leading them in a scope of work that's well thought out, and that they understand what their role is. I think that would be a better way to go about it than to feel our way through it, or to you know, to have you go ahead in, you know, because I'm just not, I can't see myself being ready to go on this in the next 2 weeks with going through all the applications and interviews and so forth. So just from a timing perspective, I just don't think I can do it realistically. And therefore I'd rather that, you know, put it off for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense. What I would ask then, if there'd be any problem with me canvassing possible candidates up until then, so I could come in with a list of names that might be workable.
Right. Maybe we can have a short conversation on that prior to, you know, just prior to you going out and doing that. That's maybe we could have a more focused conversation just about that aspect of it, because there are certain things about that too that we should probably be aware of and discuss before that happens. So.
Okay, well, to be candid about it, I've already contacted 3 people who are very interested in it, but I've stopped after that. I wanted to sort of test the waters and see if there was any interest in it at all. And the interest has been quite enthusiastic, but I've stopped moving ahead until we've got something tangible to work with.
One of the things that I did want to ask about or look into was, I thought that there had been some work along these lines previously, like maybe 10 or more years ago, and I wondered, you know, how far that got, to what extent anything was developed or put down on paper, and that might also inform our methodology of how to go about doing this, and if possible, building on work that's already been done. I don't know what's been done. Do you know?
Well, as a matter of fact, one of the people I contacted was the author of that previous report, and he's very enthusiastic because he and his crew did a lot of work in preparation, and then it just died. And he would very much like to see it so yeah, he's got full access to the old information. He takes good records and everything, so he's a valuable resource. Yeah, okay. If I'm being quite candid, I could feel like a herd of horses wanting to pull me ahead, but if we table it, we table it. If we
Well,
can't do it,
I
we
think
can't do it.
before we go to Councillor Abbott, I think the tabling it is to the 16th, but clearly the two of you are going to have a short conversation versus a more detailed one. And so that it comes back with
But the
potential.
table would be to the 2nd, July 2nd. And then we would do.
I was giving you the 16th. And you're,
Commence from July 2nd, and then come back on the 16th with something for council to look at before the August break, so that the committee can get going. That was my thought. I wasn't thinking put it off for a month.
okay.
This is just getting better.
Well, okay. Well, Councillor Abbott.
I was going to say I believe we should go with the first recommendation. It's long overdue and we should get on with it. As I hear Councillor Bain talking, and I never knew there was a previous report and the author of that is there and he wants to refresh it, this is something that's critically important for the village. I don't see any harm in allowing Councillor Bain to advance this. In terms of the conditions and stuff can be sorted out afterwards or in parallel. I mean, what harm is there in getting these people together, investigating this further? If it's something that we don't want to publish or use, put it back in your bottom drawer. I'll probably be disappointed. But I struggle with, it's like, you know, paralysis by analysis here. What are we scared of? If these are people who have done this before, they know what they're talking about, let's get them together. Do we really need to have, you know, a committee's terms drawn up first? Did they have terms last time, or did they just get together and do something that sounds proactive?
I think it's always beneficial to have a roadmap before you commence your journey.
We have a journey. We have someone. All I'm suggesting is, I hear that we have a plan that was done once before.
No, that's not what Councillor Bain said. He said that some work was done. There was a report. It doesn't mean that that's an evacuation plan.
No.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
I don't think that's what it is. And I don't think that something like an evacuation plan that is contains a lot of, I'm going to say, strategic.
I
strategic
understand
information.
evacuation plans. I understand savage plans very well. It's a large part of what I do for other things. What I'm telling you is a plan that's been formed and is going down the right path is better than no plan. And to sit here for another few weeks and say we're not doing anything because we haven't, you know, got a committee together dressed up the right way. I think Councillor Bain's suggestion of can you get these guys together, start the conversation. I struggle to see how that can get us in any worse position than we are now. They have no authority to publish anything, to address it. All they're doing is trying to get a jump on this thing. And if we don't get this coordinator in place, then maybe we do have to go to an interim plan in the meantime.
So just to clarify, we have an evacuation plan. It's part of our emergency management plan. It's already there.
In your own words, Peter, it's generic and it doesn't tell anyone how to get out their house and down the road.
Right.
It just tells them you should leave safely. It doesn't tell you how to do it.
So it points out that that's more often than not going to be the responsibility of an incident commander or the person who is leading the EOC at the time, depending on the circumstances. And so that person is who is going to say what people ought to do and where they ought to go and how they ought to evacuate. And so what that person needs is a list of potential options where they can determine what's the best way to go in the circumstances. But if you simply have a set evacuation plan that people think this is what I'm supposed to do, and they march off doing it because they think that's the plan, because it was created by people who maybe, you know, they're not the incident commander in the circumstances.
Only you're going to get to initiate the plan. We understand that. You're the incident commander.
I think what we need is not a plan. What we need is options for evacuation.
First options, the man's offering to bring something he did before and say, here's some options, we thought about it, here they are, you don't want to see it? I struggle. Just get the whole document and produce it, talk to these people who know the village, this is what they came up with, it's just information.
That's what I'm getting at with the second
Well, then why are we
recommendation.
holding the man back? Why can't he do it tomorrow night? Okay, sorry, I don't know. Okay. Someone's shown some initiative and we want to hold him back.
I'm trying to focus that initiative down a particular path that I think is in the best interest of the municipality, that's all. And I think that's through the second recommendation as opposed to the first.
All right, well, I would vote for the first.
I think the question at the moment is whether or not it gets tabled.
Councillor Barmeyer, do you have anything to add?
It's probably high time we have a properly fleshed out evacuation plan. And I don't know that dithering gets you anywhere. So I don't see any harm in Fred marching on. And providing some information, some data that will support better decision making, maybe in a week or 2 or 3 weeks down the road. So I don't know what that looks like. Is that maps with routes marked on them? Is that you know, experience from people who've been living here for 30 years that know, you know, where the good areas are to get out. I actually don't know what that looks like. I don't know what kind of information we pull together. But having a database of information to draw on, I don't think can hurt the process.
Well, in that there's only 4 that can vote, we have 4 different views here.
Mhm.
And
Well, I think
unfortunately, we don't have an odd number of voters here. So we're going to have to tread carefully here. So, I think as the architect of the document, I think Councillor Bain has heard what everybody has to say, and I give him a second chance at this and where he would like to go.
Well, in light of all the things everyone said and everything, I would still like to, if with council's approval, to begin compiling the information that Peter has in his second option, or our second option. I think compiling the information and listing it and drawing out as much as we can would be helpful. I think once we get to the next step, it doesn't commit us to anything, and we can see just what value there is in the information. But I think it would have to be done in a manner that it would be understood as non-committal at that stage. It's just gathering information from wherever we can, and then once the committee is set up, then we can start digesting the information after the terms of reference and everything else like that. But it's almost like there's an orchestra starting up, and I'm asking for the prelude, not the main part, if that works.
Hold that. CAO, would you like to weigh in, allowing that I've just, we know what your time allocation is here? I presume it would be the number 2 and number 3 is a package.
Yeah. Yeah, and if Councillor Bain wants to get started, that's, you know, that's fun. And I can ask staff to see what information we've got. So I don't know if you have the information that was previously done, or I can't remember where I saw it.
I've got it squirreled away somewhere. But I think it would need updating by the guy that wrote it.
Right.
But I don't think either the 2 orders would apply to what I'm advocating now, because it looks like council isn't in a position to approve the formation of a committee at this point. So this would just be initial steps before we come back to this, if that would work. At least we can make some progress.
We'll lay the groundwork.
Yeah. We'd probably have something a little more interesting to talk about.
Isn't it as simple as changing the or to an and, so that all 3 of them are ands? Start with that, and do that, and do that.
So this is the second recommendation and the third recommendations. Is that what we're reading there?
So my suggestion was you do the first recommendation, you can follow one and update it, and the second, and do the third.
Councillor Bain said he wants the second one.
Well, part of the second one. I'm not asking for council to approve the formation of a select committee until after the and, that we work on the terms of reference.
Call me just, it's the rarefied air at this end of the table. So what would you like?
I would like council to approve I'm not sure what to put, that maybe that I could begin compiling information from residents that will inform the creation of a optional evacuation routes for each neighborhood that could be added as appendices to the current evacuation plan eventually. Is that
I think if
too
you
much?
just council just pass the recommendations 2 and 3, and the process is started in terms of who to appoint, and the terms of reference is something that we can get to when we get to it, but at least it gives you the go-ahead to start laying the groundwork and commencing the process.
And have your chat with the CAO on what a potential candidate looks
We can
like.
Figure out what the, look up the previous information and figure out when we can get together and realistically and go over it and talk about stuff. And you can update me on who you've talked to and
I mean,
who else you have in mind.
I mean, if you're in favor, I'm not lobbying, I would, it's actually where my 2 ticks were before I had other stuff going through my mind. But it maximizes your green light. I mean, you've got the notional green light and you've got Peter's limited time on this, because that's the best you're gonna get.
Yeah, sounds like a reasonable compromise to me.
All right, so that would be the, as it stands, where it says that council approved the formation and that Councillor Bain and CAOT on that one. All right, to move this to the discussion, so that I will, actually, you would put forward that motion?
Sure.
I will second discussion. Councillors Abbott and Barmier, weigh in.
As long as Councillor Brain understands what he gets to go ahead and do with, and that seems like the right path, I'm fine. And I mean, I think we already have a tight timeline to get to the next step, so he doesn't need to stall. That's all my concern is.
Well, I think we need the emergency program coordinator sitting in the chair quickly so that it ties in with this. That's the first thing he's going to do, or she.
If that doesn't eventuate, they're going to keep
Oh,
going.
he's running the path ahead though. And I'm sure he will.
I feel lucky to be sitting at the table with Fred, to take that initiative and take this on, so thankful to you for doing this.
Good. Call a motion. All in favor as proposed? Unanimous? Thank you.
Just
Sorry.
a footnote, you will call me when you're available to discuss.
Yeah, I need to figure out where people are gonna get slotted for appointments, so that
Okay.
I can let you know what
Yeah.
I've got left over.
Good
Okay.
work around everybody on that one.
Okay,
We'll
thanks.
use the air was a little rarefied on that one. All right. Okay, so, hang on, I've lost my place here. We are.
Bylaws.
Only-
No, 5 minutes, right?
Page 109,
Where are we at?
bylaws.
Bylaws, thank you. That's the only unmarked part. Okay, bylaws. Who
Did you
doesn't
do them
love,
already?
who doesn't love a bylaw?
We did the bylaws.
No, we jumped back. So this is the traffic and parking stuff,
Oh, sorry.
which,
All right.
did we not give this 3 readings already?
Yeah, this is for adoption.
Okay, but on my copy, it doesn't have for reading on first time.
Well,
Picky me.
it was done last meeting.
Thank you. Okay,
Sorry, we should have brought an updated version that noted that, sorry.
all right,
My
thank you.
apologies.
Well, no, I thought you were trying to confuse me. I thought, Councillor Abbott with his in-camera stuff is tough enough.
Caught me.
Now we're doing, final reading and I see X's here. Come on, work with the old guy a little bit, eh?
That's
Sorry.
my fault.
Okay. No, my mother would assign blame, not us. Okay, all right. Now that I understand the lay of the land. Okay, so the recommendation is that the traffic and parking bylaw number 413, 2009, amendment bylaw number 564, 2019 be adopted. And that's with these amendments as noted. I will put forward that motion. Get a second. Thank you. Any discussion on this? Councillor Abbott?
Sometimes you go home and reflect on things. And the statement that came up last week. and
You weren't loitering on the street when you were doing
I wasn't
that.
on the street when Councillor Barnway wanted to take out the all congregate, which was probably made a bit better. And someone mentioned block barbecues. Are we really creating a legislation that means you can't have a block barbecue anymore? Should we not have just made, and I know it's a lot more, should we not have just differentiated between a parking lot on the street and allowed people to continue to have the block barbecue. R1 hasn't happened for a few years, but it used to happen regularly, and it really didn't hurt anyone. And now we're going to create some legislation that says you can do that.
So, okay, can we just pull on that string for a bit? Dan and I were talking about having a block party. Are we saying that I would now be in contravention of this bylaw? If we were to organize a block party?
No, 'cause you got dispensation, your block party's hosted at your property basically, but you'd have to get council approval for a block party anyways. So when you get council approval, you have to look at what bylaws need to be relaxed in order for me to do this, basically, so.
But by just making this change, that wouldn't have been the case though. I mean, this bylaw wouldn't have put any further restrictions on it, but now it does, because of the parking lot in the street's the same thing, and you can't camp, loiter, I guess we took out the congregate and buy alcohol either by day or night on the highway. I mean, barbecues are certainly going to be loitering there, yes.
It's an issue in some areas in the municipality, and having it clear and concise in a portion of the traffic and parking bylaw with an associated fine that goes with it gives our bylaw enforcement officers a tool with which they can educate, seek compliance, and if necessary, enforce. We really didn't have anything in the bylaw that they could point to, and so they're left in a difficult position, trying to field complaints from residents, and finding themselves without the tools to do their job. So that's
My
really
point, PB, was that if we had made this new rule only apply to parking lots as opposed to all highways. Because I don't think that any of the bylaw officers have there been any concerns with block parties?
I mean, if there's a block party, there's, like I say, it's going to have to have been approved already by council. So the thing is that, yeah, I mean, under the bylaws, it stands parking lot is part of the highway. But could differentiate it. Could go back and create a separate definition for parking lots, or restrict the wording here to well, basically create a new provision and just say, instead of highway, say parking lots. That's an option.
Yeah,
Could
that's what I'm suggesting.
rescind third reading, make that amendment, and reread it a third time, bring it back on July 2nd if you like.
That's what I'd like to propose.
I prefer that too. I'd second that. All right. Let's go with that as read by CIO Dion.
Well, it's going to have to be a different,
Rescind?
it'll have to be an additional subsection. So, first of all, you want to make a motion to rescind third reading
Thank
of
you.
the
Rescind.
amending bylaw.
Motion to rescind the third reading of the amending bylaw. Can I have a second? Thank you. All in favor? Done. So we go to amendment now.
Actually, I guess what you'd want to do, because
I just changed the term.
well, previously 21F said camp either by day or night on any highway. So if we want to leave that in place, then what we need to do is rescind first and second as well, and give 3 readings to a new provision which says, it could be 21 JKL, no person shall camp, loiter, or imbibe alcohol either by day or night in or on any parking lot. So,
I think that would be my preferred route, just to clean it, so rescind first and second.
because you've already rescinded third, so you need another motion to rescind first and
Okay, motion to
second.
rescind first and second. Can I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? No, all in favor? Done. Okay, we're back to curbing ground.
So actually, the amending bylaw also amended the definition of highway to include a parking lot. And I think we need to not do that. But right now, we have basically no amending bylaw at all. It's back to square zero. So I think the idea would be to amend the bylaw by adding, instead of replacing, section 21, what did I say, L?
Yes.
As follows. And then say camp, loiter, or imbibe alcohol either by day or night. I would like to say in or on any parking lot. And I don't know if we need a definition really of parking lot. I don't think it's really necessary. It's parking lot's a parking lot. If you want to clarify that it's part of a highway, then that would be different, but we don't want to do that anymore. So I think all we need to do is what I've just suggested. Just add 21L, no camping, loitering, or imbibing alcohol either by day or night in any parking lot. And that would do it. There would be no other amendment.
So you're striking definition 2.2?
Yeah. Well, we struck the amending first, second, third reading of this amending bylaw. So now, what you want to do is give first, second, and third reading to the bylaw as amended, to simply say, traffic and parking bylaw number 413-209 is amended by adding section 21L as follows: camp, loiter, or imbibe alcohol either by day or night in or on any parking lot.
So would it be L if we're getting rid of F?
We're not getting rid of F.
We're keeping it back as camp either by day or
Yeah.
night on any highway?
Yeah, F is still there now.
Okay.
I'm putting forward the motion as just read by Peter. Second. Any discussion?
Just a question. This is a very small point, but if we're tweaking this thing to clean it up, I'm just kind of wondering, under definitions, manager of public works means a person appointed by council. It's the CIO that hires the public works manager. Is that too trivial?
Just like I would hire the chief financial officer, I would still bring a motion or resolution to council to appoint that person as the chief financial officer. So it's appointing a particular position, or recognizing the appointment of a role, as opposed to the responsibility for hiring that person, I think.
Okay, I guess.
That's how I would that's how I would suggest that we could leave it as is without having to amend it.
Well, then there's the other one too, I noticed, under 9 in parking. Council may direct public works manager to designate and then so-and-so direction of traffic control device, when it's actually direction of the public works manager is by the CAO.
Yeah, well, there's probably a whole bunch more that we could clean up in here too. I'm sure there is.
Okay, well, I don't want to be picky,
Um,
waste
Good,
everybody's
then
time.
that'll be the end of that. Okay,
And I would just ask that we maybe come back to that another day.
Perfect, okay. I had to ask.
all right, so that's the end of the discussion now. So I'm going to call a motion, and this will be for 3 readings of the amended traffic and parking bylaw number 413, 2009. Amendment bylaw number 464, 2119. Call the motion, all in favor? Done, 3 readings, we'll see it next time around for final. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Abbott, I hope I get invited to your street party.
Yeah, each one now.
Well, you're gonna have to have one now. All right, so we're next up on the Parks regulation on page 125. It's another one of these 3 reading ones, isn't it? All right, so this is approve the motion as it is. So it's that Lions Bay Parks Regulations bylaw number 448, 2012 amendment bylaw number 565, 2019 be adopted. I'll put forward the motion. Could I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Blessedly, thank you. I'll call the motion. All in favor? Thank you. Councilor Barmeyer, you're in.
Okay, general correspondence.
Okay, wow, okay.
Put a hand up with that one.
Oh,
It's okay, you moved on, that's fine.
sorry guys.
Okay, thank you. With the speed with which you did that, please go.
So we got a letter from Metro Vancouver on sensitive ecosystem inventory. I think it's a report for information, so we can, I don't think a response is necessary. We've got another letter from, where did this go? So it's Sea to Sky Community-Based Senior Services, and I just wondered if this is something we would forward on to the Senior Circle, or if this is just for information. Not sure exactly how to deal with this. Because they're clearly trying to reach out and provide some resources.
I thought when I read this, they were looking for government people or,
This has already been, I've responded to this person
Oh, okay.
and indicated that I would not be able to make it, but that Louis Peterson would be able to go.
Okay.
And he's already been
So this has been responded to.
it's been responded
Okay.
to, and he is going to be going, I think.
Awesome.
thank you.
Provincial support for libraries, so I guess the question is, do we support this? Are we interested in writing a letter of support? The general idea being that knowledge is power, and we should be providing more free knowledge to people in general terms. So, that's something we want to respond to, or just leave it alone?
Good cause, like many are, but given what City of Victoria has been doing lately, I'm probably not keen on being aligned. I would pass on this one. I think this is just another, I mean, the provincial government's gonna do whatever they do. But I'm open to anybody else's view on this one. Okay, pass.
Metro Vancouver Regional Greenway Plan Update. I guess if we wanted to get more information, we could email Craig Sobering at Regional Parks. Not really sure that this affects us. That 2019.
Sorry, well, that one didn't ask. It asked that you provide appropriate staff contact. Are you saying that you're not going to do that?
No, it says if your staff have any questions or like further information regarding this initiative, please contact Craig Sobering, Regional Park System Planner.
I was looking at paragraph rather. In order to facilitate this process, we ask that you provide appropriate staff contact, for example. those complete these meetings, so we're not going to provide a staff contact. Oh,
Trust me, Metro knows who the staff contact is.
right. If he knows the answer already, then we don't have to tell him.
2019 UBCM convention meeting request. Are we planning to go to this?
I believe in disguised terms, Councillor Cunliffe will be the acting mayor at that time.
Okay.
I think that for me, the two ministers, perhaps, John and I are like this, of course, as you know. I run the village, he runs the province, we're so much in common. But I think the two ministers that we would have a keen interest on are Farnworth with ASOD and Robinson with our grants, and I think both of them have rather rebuffed us recently, so I'm thinking not.
Okay. So the follow-up telling us how to book an appointment is written.
No.
Okay. And then the last one was Metro 2040 land use. I think it was, I don't know what municipality, they're trying to reassign a highway to some different use. I don't really know that affects us, it's just for information.
I think we are off the grid on this one.
Okay. Resident correspondence, we have an email from Carl, 397. One of the things he brings up, which I guess, I wonder if it's somewhat, he's bringing up this concept of privilege and elitism by having permit parking spots in our beach parking lots, and I clarified that there's only 3 resident spots in Calvin Grove, and all the other parks have no resident area to park in, so it's only public parking. So this seems a little misconstrued. I don't know that we have an issue with the parking passes suggesting privilege and elitism.
I don't think so either.
Do we need to reply to this?
CAO, have a view?
Or do you
Well,
have
I think
anything?
he's also
Yeah, I'm not, I
getting at the wording of the parking pass, saying resident permit versus annual permit, because it couldn't say annual anymore because it wasn't annual.
that's it.
And his belief was that, well, it's more or less as stated here, that his intent was to counter any suggestion of privilege or elitism by having the permits that are on resident vehicles not say resident permit. In every other municipality that I'm aware of, they say resident permit. And the parking
Yes,
signage
it's
on the
signage.
street says resident permit required. I think it's pretty well accepted in most places that that's just the way it works. And there's streets that don't have that requirement in every municipality. And anybody can park on them, just like in Lions Bay, there's streets that don't have any requirements. So, I had somebody come into the office just as I was about to come up to this meeting, who was a new resident, a tenant, and wondered why somebody had stuck a note on his car saying, "You can't park here." And there was no indication that there was a parking restriction. I just made sure that he understood you can't park more than 72 hours at a time in a particular location, and he figured that was probably it. But other than that, yeah, people can park where they like unless there's a restriction. So.
To Councillor Barmier's question, which is there a question here, and you have to read through it carefully, so if I can paraphrase from former Mayor Burr, here's my question, and he's talking about annual or resident permit. Did council intend to eliminate this subtle yet important feature? I will take this one on and deal with Mayor Burr.
The this one is,
So just the other thought that you mentioned here, it's talking about a holistic parking plan other than the draft from 2015. Were we expected to have accepted a draft plan? What's the loose end there that's, we don't want to allude to, I mean, accused of?
There was a large document that had been created by former Mayor Burr with a number of proposed ways to go about having parking in Lions Bay. And there were, in staff's opinion, a lot of issues with that were commented on and pointed out. And some of those issues were to do with bylaw enforcement. Some of those issues were to do with, I can't remember all those.
So the
but it
previous
was-
council neither rejected or approved this plan, and it was
No,
allowed to die of conscious.
never quite got there, and went through a series of piecemeal amendments to the way parking works in Lions Bay in terms of signage. We do have signage now that says permit
I
required.
don't intend to be the advocate for the plan, it's not what I'm suggesting, I was just
Yeah.
wondering what the loose end was, okay.
An interesting document, to be sure. So I'll take care of that. Second to last, Councillor Brunner.
I was, Penny Nelson writing a letter regarding insurance to use the hall. And I understand there's been lots of back and forth, so I'm not sure what's left to say.
I think we're done.
Okay. And the resident,
Oh, the
so
on-street.
we've dealt with that, I guess that's also.
Well,
where we
the
reply-
second one. No, there's more. So this is the new
Oh,
one
wait a
that's,
second.
this is the new one, which
What is that? On table?
is on table here, which is item, so I've got it as B3, it's, anyhow, this is the one from Mr. Doherty, and and embedded within that is his request for review of his utility fees and his rationale for why that is. And I think what we should do is, not everybody's had a chance to look at this, so I'm fine with it being tabled. I mean, we're going to be back here in 2 weeks. We'll card it in and table it, and unless staff has got a strong opinion that it just can't be done.
Oh, it can't be done this year.
Retroactively.
So you can't do anything about it this year. So really, I think the place to have a discussion about it and what, what if any changes council feels is appropriate for next year in the setting of tax rates would be when we start having those discussions in the fall.
All right, I will generously offer to respond back to him with that news. And we'll use this as information in our budget discussion in the fall. And so CFO, you've got this on your little odds and ends for next budget session. Okay, thank you. So I'll write on that. Which takes us to the end of the correspondence. Thank you, Councillor Barmere. Only 2 more sections to do this.
Me?
You, aren't you on holiday? Sorry, no. You might be away during one of those, I don't know. Correspondence is done, and Councillor Abbott, you are up with a bunch of new businesses.
Okay, these could be fairly quick, maybe some follow-up actions. I was asked a few questions about the intention of what had changed at the CM parking lot. So I was here when we approved that, but I guess I don't know the subtlety of what, I guess I haven't looked at the detail how it used to be, so what we changed. Sounds like the one significant thing we changed is the duration of time which you can park, which now prevents people that are taking their boat out from parking overnight. I thought we did that because it became a problem, the parking lot was getting filled up with cottages. in previous years. But I didn't go there this weekend. I went past previous weekends, the parking lot hasn't been full. So not sure how that's, if that is the issue, if that's why we did it. Maybe it's just not, it's too early in the summer. The second thing around that, when I was down there, I bumped into one of our bylaw officers who had ticketed one of the vehicles there, and he pointed out that by him ticketing the vehicle, the guy actually was saving money on 3 days parking. Maybe we should consider that, because it's cheaper to get a ticket. He said, I can of course get him towed, but then you need no money at all. So it's quite interesting. You could, if you park there for 3 days, the fine would be less than paying for the park. If you're allowed to pay for the parking, it would be less.
Sorry,
But my question is, are we consciously trying to prevent people from parking? Is that the reason we made it no more than 1 day? And was it an issue in the years went by? I didn't know the answer to that, so I couldn't answer the question.
Yeah, so the intent of changing that was to prevent the people who would come and park for 3 days over a busy weekend, taking up a number of stalls that thereby, there was nowhere for people coming on a busy weekend to park. And the overflow issues with those people trying to park on streets, driving around parking where they shouldn't be parking, those kinds of things. So the idea was to try to ensure that for people who come for the day, there's parking available if they want to go to the beach park. I think that the first weekend, the weather was probably had more to do with it than anything else, but I would have thought that the parking lot would be fuller for this past weekend. But I think it's something that I want to keep an eye on, monitor, because we do want to find an appropriate balance between providing parking for those who wish to come and visit and need a place to park, and revenue. And it may also be a function of we've reached a price point where people are saying, no, I'll search for somewhere else to park. Not sure how much that's coming into play, but
Doesn't the
I think
marina
it's...
have parking?
Pardon me?
Doesn't the marina have parking?
Marina has limited parking for its members, not enough. And previously, going back a ways, we used to partner with them on them selling parking for that lot, and we'd split that revenue. And then it changed to we simply took over the lot and managed it, but allowed for multi-day parking up to 3 days. And then the idea was to try this, because the sense was that there was too often times when it was a gong show and people trying to park willy-nilly and all over the place. So that's more or less what we were trying to address, and I think that it's too early days to draw conclusions, but it's something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on.
So do we have a mechanism to make adjustment over the summer if it turns out that we have got it wrong? Because the council's going to be away.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's feasible. It's something I'm looking into with the company that provides the meters for us, because they do get programmed back east. So I'm not sure that we have the ability to change it midstream, but it's something I'm looking into, so I'll find that out.
The other question that came up in the same conversation was, we used to allow resident parking in the CN lot. There was a few spots dedicated for residents.
That was, 2 or 3 years ago, but we haven't done it for the last 2 years. Since we put in the meters, we did not have any resident spots. So that's 2 years. This is the 3rd year now where that's the case. We only allow resident parking without having to pay in Calvin Grove lot and Sunset lot. Yeah. And this year we're installing, or have installed just in the last couple of days, the first 3 stalls at Calvin Grove as resident parking only.
Okay. It was just one of those statements from the resident was, pay for it in our taxes and we don't know how to use it anymore. But
Yeah, But the alternative in that case is they can park for free on the street with their parking permits on any of those streets below the highway.
I think if I can weigh in just a little bit, having my 8th year of hearing about parking. Yes. Literally from the dark ages in year 1 to where we are now, which is where we have signage, paid parking, designated resident areas, it's really quite night and day. I think specific to the, let's say the KG lot's got its own issues and it still is in finalization, but to the CN lot, the council 2 years ago, I think, made the allocation for the improvement. CAO's negotiated with the lease. We've now got a pretty nice looking parking lot there. The revenue we get to see every year. These are market rates for rental. A part of what I see is in the, especially in the metro meetings that I go to, people are dying to get out of their homes or out of their condos or their apartments. So places like Belcarra, Anmore, the beaches, Lions Bay, we are discovered. So folks are coming here as casual visitors. And I think the CN lot in particular, in that Central's our primary beach, gives them the conduit to stay for the day and then leave, which is the intent, because we don't want overnighters. I think that makes it, if they don't want to do that, then it's parking above the highway. Below the highway, there is no parking other than maybe a corner or two on Isleview, but that's it, it's above the highway. So shifting to the marina, as the CAO's said, in days gone by, they would park cars there. Within the composite of the marina, as I understand from the owner, well over 50% of the boats there are non-resident boaters. So they've got cabins scattered around the place, or they're legacy boats that maybe don't leave very often. So certainly every time, and maybe Councillor Bain gets the same abuse that I do, that every time I go down there, and former Mayor Burr had the same issue too, is that how come we can't use the CM lot? And we say, sure you can, just write your check for $32, and if the owner wants you to move the car somewhere else, that's fine, but it's above the highway. The marina owner has accepted that. He says, that's the way, you're running your business, we're doing ours too. Incidentally, when the marina has a few spots, they sell them at a day rate, they say at market rate. So
It's cheaper, but
yeah, it's the same gig. So they're crying wolf but piggybacking off our market setting. So I think the long story short is the summer heats up and people that maybe have 2 families over and they're all piling down to the beach. You know, there's access for people to park, short of people staying there all day. I really, you know, as Peter says, it's a work in progress, but I kind of like where we are now.
that's just I started off down that conversation with when I was in the marina, followed by the bylaw officer. Granted, it was early days in the summer, and the parking lot was underutilised, and both of them had independently said to me, "You're losing money because you won't need my guys to go there." And I see the bylaw officer guy and say, "We're not filling the parking lot." So that was all the observation was. If you wanted to revisit it, but I guess we'll give it time and see where it goes. The second, and I did suggest to the bylaw officer that he gives you a report on. I asked him if he tracks how many people in there. He said, well, he just does that by nature. He knows how many people in there. And I said, we should feed it back to you and see if we are starting to fill it. If he did that. My second point on new business, I guess if I can move on from that one, so I'm then talking. Shuttle survey. I didn't know about that and it sort of came out of the blue when I saw it in the village update. Good thing to see. Pleased to see it. I immediately thought that here was another opportunity to continue the momentum we got the previous survey. We put the banner, have your say across the top of it. When we stuck it in the village update, people start to recognise that, might give it a bit more of a profile. And then also thought it would be a really simple thing to stuck in the letterbox and got a bigger response. But I didn't see it, found I went online and did the survey. I don't know what sort of response you get. I did think this statement about restricting people by their IP address is the wrong message. That was not on the 300 odd surveys that we got on the wood stove thing. I could filter out those IP addresses in a couple of minutes and see if there was any abuse. So I don't think we should have put that statement out there. If there's 5 people using the bus in the same household, let them use the same computer. I think it was a bad message. I know the reason why it was done out. I just think it's the perception of it is not a good idea. You can work out if someone's abusing it from the same IP address. Don't restrict residents to, trying to get one person in the household. I think you want to get as many people, especially on that kind of survey, you want to get as much input as you can.
Well, I mean, that's why I suggested that they either do it from work or do it on their cell phone using data so that it'll be a different IP address.
3 kids in the same house, might want to use the bus different times, parents, moms, not all of them work. I think we should have just left that out there in the future surveys. We shouldn't be worried about that. I know that I was one of the ones that asked that question and Shauna gave me the list and I faulted them. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's an issue to be concerned about. It's not a poll, it's a survey.
I can see, I know that there'd be some surveys that we might want to do where that would be an issue. And so maybe it wasn't necessary for this one, but I can see, I know that there are some where it would be.
It's more of a vote, you mean?
Unless it's as you say that it's going to be easily recognizable. But I think that maybe we can have that conversation online.
If you ask for a name or some sort of unique identifier, you can see immediately, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, we can't we can't pinpoint addresses with IP addresses. So, but I think that's certainly something to keep in mind and take into consideration. And
I don't know the timing on this. Is it too late to send it out again? And could have your say on it and stick it in the.
I would hope
boxes?
it goes out again.
oh, it's open until
September, isn't it?
No, it's open until July 14th, I think, on the transit survey. Yeah, we
Well, you're gonna
could just.
replate this dinner several times between now and then, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't want to run it every single week because people tune out. But it'll be on the website still. But it'll shift in terms of its position in the banner rotation, and maybe I can talk to our director of artistic banners about doing an amended banner.
Could we put in letterboxes?
Put this one in letterboxes? I think that's probably unnecessary. That would be my suggestion, is that I don't think it's. I think that our putting them in people's post boxes is something that we should do selectively, and I think that this isn't one of those. I think maybe there are other ones where that would be the case, but.
There's a balance between being selective and creating a bit of creating a bit of sort of people impetus, but on people seeing them. There's a chance of doing the survey, so there's a bit of that too as well. There's a couple of typos on the survey, by the way. You can spot them. We've got a wheel instead of a week once.
A what?
A wheel instead of a week on one place, and you've got a busy stop in one place. I think you wanted a bus stop.
In my view, the key piece that was a driver on the survey, which was to give staff full credit from that, they took the information that started when I, along with other mayors, were meeting with the TransLink executives, and I asked for 3 things that would improve our service, and they happy to say they listened to 3 out of 3. And that's resulted in us getting a Monday to Thursday service until September. And the CAO basically took the good news, packaged it, and the community's aware, their parents are happy. I mean, Councillor Cunliffe danced for us here. But TransLink doesn't do their own work. I think this is the CAO has done this so that when we go back to them in the fall, that we've got some kind of data. and plus the data that they would have with, when the compass cards hit the till and all the rest of that stuff. I mean, I can tell you, we have, I think we rank as number 295 of 312 worst routes in the province, or in the metro area. So I think the negotiations are probably less on feedback and, village wants versus arm wrestling. So I think my point in mentioning all that is maybe this is not where we want to shoot our bolt on a mailbox format, because people could be disappointed with the result.
I have reached out to different translate people, and as well as the person who is promoting the Transport 2050 plan, and will probably come on Canada Day, seeking to have them help promote our survey. If there's any way in which they can do so. I also asked West Vancouver Blue Bus folks to put it on the West Vancouver site underneath where our schedule is. And I haven't heard back yet, but that was just the other day, so trying to get it out there as much as we can.
How many hits have we had, do you know?
Was there about 28 so far, Shauna, earlier today?
That was yesterday, I think.
Okay.
When I pulled that was
30-ish,
I
okay.
looked today.
They say Tuesday, well, it's,
Over the weekend, basically, yeah.
well, things start to peter after now.
One last request on that, can we make sure we've got some paper copies, even they're just in the office for people that don't have them.
Okay.
And I happen to know one person, she thanked Shauna for actually printing one.
I don't know if this is the right place to bring it up under new business, but I feel like some sort of follow-up to Mr. Zordigan's behavior at the meeting is in order. I don't know what that looks like, whether that's a letter, but that was very uncomfortable. He lacks boundaries, it was disrespectful, and it was intimidating, and I don't think we should tolerate that.
I think that's noted.
On a personal level, I felt very uncomfortable and it made me anxious, and I don't want to come here feeling anxious. I don't want a member of the public having that much leverage to come into our space, to approach Shauna the way he did, to approach you the way he did. The fact that that wasn't policed more firmly upset me, and I won't tolerate it again. I'll leave the next meeting if he shows up and behaves that way. I will not stay.
Well, I think fair enough comment on this, and I think it's a matter of boundaries that you feel were crossed or not crossed. I think that clearly Mr. Zordigan had a view of what was going to happen that was wrong, and I think approached Shauna from an information piece, approached me, and once I told him to sit down, he sat down. I think the exchange with Peter, that's Peter's comfort level or not. I think once Mr. Zordigan did get his opportunity, unless somebody has a different view, I thought I had him under extremely tight control. And then he pretty much did what I asked, and that was the end of it. So I think others may have a different view, and you're welcome to share that with me. But I think that, we don't have, my aide-de-camp is on holiday right now, so he's not going to be the soldier at the door. I've written to Mr. Zordigan, I don't know if I've copied others or not, but that, he needs to keep his behavior under check. I think that his piece of, suppressing democracy does have an ability to attend here. I think I'm quite prepared to talk to him tomorrow and say better demeanor, or you're going to be sanctioned, and it'll be a little 3-month holiday before we see you again. If that works for you and the rest, I don't know, what's everybody's feedback on this?
I don't know the detail. Was there really a mixed message? Did he honestly believe he had something that he was meant to come and talk to? I think last time we spoke about being clear with him when we were going to discuss these matters and when he'd be invited back. if we confuse that, the behaviour, the aggression, that's still not acceptable, I agree. But you know, residents do have the right to access, as long as they do it within boundaries. And if they keep coming with the same question, they can, as long as we haven't answered it. If we've answered it, we've answered it. Previously, I don't think we ever did give him the answer he needed. The answer was, you're going to see on this day, we're going to discuss it, this is our plan. If it was within that boundary, he was completely, he'd stepped over. So that, if we had kept to that, but I'm not sure if we did, maybe someone slipped up and led into some false expectation based on a missed email or a dropped email or anything. No?
Where I went at the time
Just to go first.
was to, I printed this and forgot to bring it with me. But I've sent him several emails outlining exactly what he needs to do, updating him with what we're doing in terms of changes to the Kelvin Grove parking lot, and that, you know, I clearly and explicitly said, come to the July 2nd, because then you'll have had an opportunity to see the signage that's been erected, which was just yesterday or today.
Arrived yesterday.
That would be much better and more
That's what I
productive.
thought, and I just couldn't remember the dates and whether it was.
And
And that's what I thought in that case,
also-
I agree with you.
I had also explicitly told him that, and pointed out to him the specifics in the procedure bylaw that require delegations to state what it is they want to talk about. And I also asked him if he could highlight what's new, because he's spoken on these subjects many times before. And that, you know, his right to come and speak at council is not an unfettered right. It's, you know, there are limitations on that right. I mean, got lots of latitude, but, you know, please stick to.
Yes, and that's why I asked if it was new information or something different. So, okay. I'm on.
So, yeah, it's unfortunate, and I don't know that I handled it very well, so I'll have to do better. But I'm sure I'll follow up with him as well, because I think that's necessary in the circumstances, and I don't know that he'll be happy about anything I say, but I think that I will clarify where things stand, and that in terms of when he ought to come, and I'll update him. I'll ask him for his opinion on the changes that have been made. I know some things that he wants that we haven't done, but I'll at least ask him for his opinion, and if he wants to come back and talk about those changes, I don't know if he did at all tonight or not, but if he addressed any of the changes.
We haven't done any of the changes. We just got the signs yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said that they got installed today.
No.
I misinterpreted what you said, so.
No, we'll have them installed
Okay.
before the weekend.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's right, that was an email.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
So, see how you're going to respond to him? Do you want me involved in this too, or you fine?
I'll copy you on my response.
Okay.
And
All right,
Is there a reminder of decorum in
Uh,
the response, how he carries himself, the fact that he can't approach people the way he does?
all right.
Can't do that.
I tell you what, why don't I do that tomorrow, and then I'll copy you that you're going to be following up.
sure.
Done. All right? Council have a desire to see this, or is this fine within a smaller group? Take it as fine, thank you. All right, so it's timely that we are at public questions, and there better not be any. Good. Then we are going to close the meeting for the topics that are here. But first, can I have a motion to extend the meeting for an hour? Thank you. Second, all in favor? Good.
Not sure all were in favour.
Well, this is, you know,
Is it an hour?
well, we could be out of here in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There's one topic here. And actually, Councillor Rabbit, before you ask, I did already. And the topic under discussion is left in camera. And so it's a resumption of that.
Well, okay, well, I was going to ask, and the clause in says we can go into camera to discuss it and vote to decide whether it stays or out of camera. Okay. Well, am I the only one that thinks this discussion, well now I'm doing it in the open, so I guess I can't do that.
I think you can have that discussion as soon as we go into close and decide if you want to.
That's what we've done. That's what we've done before. That's what I'd like to do. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, so the proposed topics for discussion in the absence of the public is the discussion infrastructure committee. And that the meeting be closed to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under the following sections of the community charter. 90 in brackets 1, a part of a council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to or is one or more of the following. A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. We have a motion to go into in-camera on that basis. Thank you. Second, all in favor? Kill the lights, Shauna. Here we are at 11:35, holy smoke. And we've come out of our closed session. And so reporting out from the closed session is the following, relative to the infrastructure committee, the council has completed the draft terms of reference, which will be taken to the IC. And until the IC has had a chance to review the items, it will not be released to the public. And the IC's next date of meeting is to be announced. There we go. Please, may I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Second, and we are done.